I write a comment here?
You'll have to. The best thing to do is maybe go on your phone and go on to YouTube and then watch.
Ah,
But you should also have on the right there. There should be private and then comments. You could click
I
on that on the right and under comments.
yeah.
You can read them, but you can't write on them if you're
Yeah.
not the host.
Okay.
Correct.
But what I do, because I'm on my computer, is I open another window with YouTube,
Mm.
and then I pop open the chat. You can
Yeah.
pop the chat out to a separate window, and then I
Uh-huh.
close the actual YouTube window so I don't hear the echo.
Yeah.
Oh, clever.
Hello, everybody.
then
We're here. We're starting.
Oh, we're
We're
live. I didn't even
Tweaking out
realize.
some stuff here. We're just kind of finding our way here in this live platform.
Let me quickly put my pants on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's another week. Hey, look, it's on my channel. So hopefully it all transmits very well. Thank you very much for joining us every week. I appreciate it. Let's go around the table and everybody should introduce themselves. Let's start with our 2 week in a row special guest, Mr. Earl Grey. Say hello to everybody.
Hello. I'm drinking not Earl Grey, but chai tea because it's pretty late here in the afternoon. Almost 10 p.m.
It's a very late
Yeah.
afternoon.
Extremely late afternoon.
Pretty
Hello,
late,
Damien.
It actually is the early afternoon for me, just lunchtime. But I'm drinking some bubbly water flavored with hops. No
Wow.
alcohol.
Oh, very nice.
It's actually very tasty.
Hello, Rasa.
Hey, how are you guys? I have a bubbly ice water. No, it's just ice water actually. No bubbles.
No bubbles.
Just ice, which is fine because I definitely shouldn't drink any tea before, after, or alcohol because then I really can't fall asleep after this chat because it's almost 9 o'clock in here. So, it's in the evening. So even though it's kind of nice and bright still, but oof.
Yeah, you could never tell looking.
Mm.
It's 20 to 3 here, and I'm drinking. Since we're doing drinks, I'm drinking Cult Classic beer from a local brewery here. So yeah, a pilsner.
Mm.
It's nice to know when
there we
you're
go.
drinking a cult classic that they just tell you you're drinking a cult
That's right.
classic.
That's right. Just straight ahead. No fancy names. Cult Classic.
Mm.
So who would like to start this week with what they've been reading this week? I'll
Go
open
ahead.
it to whoever wants to jump in first.
We're all shy.
I have very short amount of reading done, so I'm gonna wait because I mean you can go kick off because I had quite a little reading done this week. So
Okay.
I can
Well, why don't
kick
we start
off
with
if you want.
Damien this week then? Well, let's go with Damien.
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be fancy and switch my camera around again.
Oh,
I got a bunch of Jim Woodring books in the mail today, or not today, this week.
Beautiful.
And this one is called "Now, Sir, This Is Your Missing Gonad." I guess I don't need to switch cameras.
Cool title.
And other Frank cartoons. So ostensibly, these are like cartoons with a whatchamacallit, a gag at the bottom.
Mhm.
Only they're more like surreal combinations, as you would expect from Jim Woodring. Surreal combinations of words and pictures. And sometimes the words seem to have nothing to do with the picture. Sometimes they don't. Like this one says, "Is your wife home? I need to get my tongue sewn back on. If she were home, do you think I'd be doing my own cooking?" And now this character is cooking something, so there is a connection.
That's amazing.
And some surrealism doesn't work for me, but this works really well. Even though you could easily argue there's no reason for the words at the bottom, they just make me enjoy it that much more. You know what? I will just give me a sec. I'm gonna switch cameras.
It's an amazing book. I don't know if I've ever seen that collection.
It's from 2020.
Oh wow, okay.
So this will be the second time after last time that I've used this camera. So give me a sec to.
Yep.
There we go.
Fancy.
Oops, I blocked my own vision. So, like this one says, stand back while I unpack. This one is the Happy Horror. You wouldn't lie to your old buddy, now would you? And this one here with the Frank on top of some strange hippo-like creature. Flesh merchant. I rode this hog all the way from the state fair. Dowager. Oh, please. I was raised on a farm. That's no hog. Flesh merchant. To be honest, it's not from the state fair either. I mean, it's just, I can imagine him having a book full of, like a notebook full of just weird one-liners and other things.
Right. Well, does he have any context in the book? Because I'm wondering, because that last one that you read, it almost looks like it reminds me of a panel in one of the actual comics. Does it give you context? Are these panels taken from other places that he's kind of changed?
No, there's nothing in the copyright or anything. I'm pretty sure it's all original.
Amazing. But
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is recycling. Maybe he's taken images and now added words to them. So these things look like maybe you've seen them before.
No, just that one. I mean, when you flip the pages, there's not they don't all ring a bell, but that last one that you read definitely did. But I mean, it might also just because I'm just so used to seeing the characters and that sort of thing. So
it is, this is what I call cartooning, single panel things. I know the term cartooning has now changed, but I call this cartooning. And but I just love the surrealness. So sometimes there's a huge block of text. The engineer, well, this is good. I'll be here from now till doomsday at this rate. It's as if the luck plane were suddenly and unjustly tilted away from me. But I mustn't be ungrateful. Nobody knows better than I how fortunate I am, and humility played no role in it. I've never wavered, never even considered traveling along another road. That's why this kind of stuck-up shenanigan gives me the pip. They know perfectly well I can't back up, and that fool can sleep for 2 weeks at a stretch. So there is Frank sleeping on the tracks. But I don't think that's his thought here. I forgot this guy's name now, but
that moon guy. Yeah. It's incredible, like seeing the sky. I love his skies. I love the way he represents like clouds and things.
It is amazing how well his technique works over and over again.
Right.
So this is a couple hundred pages of different drawings. I've marked how far I've got. I'm not going to read it all at once because you can see it's kind of static. But it just makes me really happy to dip into it. And I love how, every maybe 20 pages, the page color changes. The paper is beautiful, great binding. I mean, it's another really nice package from Fantagraphics. There is no explanation on it anywhere of anything.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
This one's just called Ear Boots, but I don't know why. The other cool thing to do, you might notice, like here, the page is yellow. So everything is black and yellow, except there's usually one thing that's black and white.
Right.
So I don't know if that means they had to put yellow ink on the entire page. I guess it was originally white.
Maybe it's a sense of attention.
So it does. It gives a very interesting compositional quality to it that I don't recall in anything else I've seen before.
Right. I mean, it seems like Piskor does that. Ed Piskor does that with his stuff.
Does he?
Like when he was doing that X-Men thing, there was stuff where he colored the paper so he would let the white show through, mostly in the speech bubbles from what I remember. But that kind of thing to really make it pop off of the page, right?
Yeah. Like I really like how it works here with this frog. It's called Frogtown Revisited. The frog is white, but the city coming out of its mouth is yellow.
Amazing. Like seriously, look at that little triangle of sky on. Like it's unreal. Really nice.
Yeah. So I highly recommend this book. One thing it kind of reminds me of a little bit is not Alfred Gorey, Edward Gorey. He has some of those books like alphabet books and stuff like that, which are kind of surreal, and there's a connection between the text and the pictures, but it's not 100%. This one says, "Do you have that book that tells you where to go when you die?" "Yes, we do, but I can save you the $10. So everything's kind of open to interpretation.
Mhm.
I'm definitely a words and picture guy. Somehow it makes me happier when there's words along with the pictures.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Instead of just a
But
pure
so
art
this makes this
thing.
much more enjoyable to me than if it were just. I mean, it would be a great art book without the captions, but I enjoy it so much more with the captions. So anyway, it's my new sort of bedtime reading, I guess. A little, read a few pages of this every night before I go to bed.
Nice.
Great. So good. What a great idea. Different colored paper.
I haven't got to. I'm sure there'll be no clear explanation of what. Now, sir, is this your missing gonad? Maybe that's just the caption to this picture here. That must be the missing gonad. Don't think about that too much.
Yeah.
Okay, you can put me back to a normal picture here.
Amazing. That's amazing, Damien. I love the look of that.
And it's all your fault. You've led me down the Frank path.
Yes. I'll take that. Bring up the tally board and a 1, please.
Yes. So I ordered every single Jim Woodring book they had on In Stock Trades, which was 4. So now I'll have to order some more or look around for where the other things are.
Yeah.
It's very
Cool,
surreal.
very cool.
Yes, surreal is the word. I don't know. I never know the difference between surrealism and Dada. I don't know if it's Dada or if it's surreal.
No. Dada is more whacked out. Dada is making no sense at all, but full power.
Well, there's a lot of these. Some of these, I think I read you some that made sense, but a lot of them make absolutely no sense.
Yeah, but I thought more about surrealism in the Max Ernst way. He did collages, and some of the drawings are like that. Some background in a more conservative style, and these freaked out structures in the foreground. Oh, Hieronymus Bosch. I don't want to sound pretentious, maybe I do, but I sometimes need these ways around it to make it more interesting for me. Because I had always a bit of a problem with Woodring. I don't know why.
Yeah, I went back to the one video I could find where you mention him in a group of wordless comics, and you say you haven't quite gotten him yet.
But I will get there.
And so this is different. I mean, it's not like there's not a sequential art of those other ones, the ones you showed in your video and that Terrence has showed before. There was one more. This one actually is a joke that makes sense. It says, "Oh hell, there goes the ruler. Now I'll never know how big this is." And there actually is a ruler falling from his hands as he's pulled into Cthulhu or whatever that is.
Gorgeous, man. Ridiculous.
There's a wonderful freedom when you can. I mean, there's a wonderful freedom that he has as an artist to just go wherever he wants on each separate page there.
Cool. Very cool, Damien.
But that's amazing. The only thing I read this week that I loved.
Okay.
Whoa.
Everything else is downhill from here.
Oh, starting strong.
Grumpy.
Yes, for the rest of this, I'm grumpy reader.
Yeah. Mr. Gray, why don't we go with you next?
Yeah, I continued reading Prince Valiant, volume 5. Yeah, I did a video about it, but I thought, hey, why not speak about it when I keep on reading the stuff? And it's fine kitsch, as I said in the video, but really entertaining, I think. Here we have Prince Valiant and his future wife, Alita. He's the only one who doesn't know that she will be his future wife. And they are in the desert, and he's angry at her because he got everything wrong. And and they are in the desert, and nobody has died of thirst more gracefully like these two, like noble man and like a nobleman and a woman. So it's a bit ridiculous, all the setup here, and how they find to each other. It's really nice kitsch, just and yeah, great art, fantastic art, and the story is actually real fun and entertaining. I don't want to be condescending of sorts, even though some stuff is just a bit plain ridiculous. In the below tire here, or row, we have this accompanying strip of the medieval castle. And you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Fine. And you see here the Christmas tree, and this is just one occasion or one example in which he just got the medieval age wrong, because Christmas trees came just very much later on.
Right, much later.
Yeah. But here we have, there's the key panel where they finally kiss. And but some historic stuff is woven into the saga, and this is interesting. I mean, the sacking of Rome when the Vandals conquered Rome, and our two heroes here, they want actually to get married by the Pope. But of all the time, this is not the right occasion then. So they found a hermit in the woods, and they married them, because, of course, our noble couple could only be bound together by Christian religion. This is the only way to go. And last page here, just great art. It's always the art that makes all the stuff enjoyable for me. And even though you get the impression that they back in the medieval times, they had no other problems than how to comb their hair, especially the ladies, to be beautiful. But however, beautiful book and nice presentation. Even though I went a bit overboard on my video, saying that Fantagraphics did everything right with the coloring, which is not really the case. They recolored the stuff here, actually. The German edition, I got some flack from German comic fans afterwards. It was in the comments, but usually in German, so the rest couldn't read it. They said the German edition is actually superior or something, because, for reasons I haven't really figured out. For me, they erased all the Band-Aid dots, the little printing dots, and made Linie Claire style coloring out of it. And I thought it was just a bit too much. But
I have those volumes, but I've only read the first one. I feel like at the back of the first one, or maybe one of them, is a note on how they went about restoring it. And they make the claim that they have done the most accurate. Fantagraphics makes the claim they've done the most accurate to what it would have looked like back then.
The German publisher
disagrees.
Does the same thing, and they disagree. Yeah,
it's like, you right, I'm right, you right, but I'm right.
But honestly, I really love the Fantagraphics coloring. Not in each and every panel, but overall. It's I don't need to be it cleared up everything. Seems so.
It's interesting to me too, because having read the first volume, it didn't even occur to me that Prince Valiant was Christian. I wonder if that was inserted. Maybe he only thought of that later on. I mean, because it's portrayed as being such an early period in British history. I wouldn't think many people in England were Christian yet. But I don't know.
No, they weren't.
Just I don't think they were at the beginning. No, just for sure. No. They had their own religion part. I don't know. I live in here, but religious is something I will never go and explore and like, I need to find out. It's just too much people. To me, when you start to explore something and they always mention religion, it seems like everybody gets really angry. And in conversations, so nobody's happy about what you do. So you don't mention it anymore. So it's the best way and safest way to just prevent people being unhappy. Just stop talking about it. So
actually, this is my my MO when it comes to religion as well, because I'm not a religious person, not at all. It's part of of history, and that's where I'm interested in. But if someone believes, hey, I won't change his mind or her mind, and
exactly.
They won't do it with me. So let's go on.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful presentation in that book. Like, it looks like the oversized. So like that last panel you showed of the ship with the mountains in the background and stuff like that. It's beautiful. It's not a comic that I've ever gotten into. I think I picked up, there might have been a free comic book day, Prince Valiant as well. You know, but obviously much smaller format, and it hasn't struck me. But those volumes, they look incredible. Looks really nice.
Yeah.
I think especially it helps you. I like myself as well. Like I never went into, but when I'm looking at that art, especially that hardback you just showed, I was like, "Oh, it's intriguing already." Because of the style of the art, it needs to be much bigger. Because what I've seen as an examples, they were too tiny, and there's so much detail, and I was like, I can't see that. I wanted to actually be
and that's the benefits of the Fantagraphics edition, because it's much bigger than everything else.
Aren't they also still smaller than the original newspaper pages were?
Yeah.
So
of course, but
it does.
The German,
Oh, go ahead.
The German version is European album size, so it's certain ticks smaller.
Interesting. I wonder how out to print those Fantagraphic hardbacks are. Usually hardbacks are really kind of rare.
They're all in print, I believe.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Yeah. That's interesting. I wonder.
I mean, I bought them about a half a year ago.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, the art, I think even if you don't read the stories, the art is so incredible. If you have at all interest in beautiful illustration. Because it is an old-fashioned illustration style.
And I made a bit of fun of it. Some pages are really written well, and some dialogues are really witty and funny. And it's very old-fashioned. It's like my grandmother thought about queens and kings and so on. And it's just this very old-fashioned view on nobility and so on that rubs me really the wrong way sometimes. So,
Well,
cool.
When I watched your video and I kind of responded to your concept of kitsch, and my concept of kitsch might be slightly different, being from a different culture, but I equated Prince Valiant with my childhood in a rural part of the United States, and reading about Hal Foster. He had a very wild rural Canadian childhood. And I just sort of wondered if his vision, his idealized vision of the storybook romantic Europe comes out of actually living in the wilds of turn of the century Canada.
Yeah, but he has a very refined vision of very elaborate costumes and stuff like this. And this comes definitely from the fantasies they had in the 19th century when they reinvented the medieval age. In a way, because this has nothing to do with, as I said it in the video or in the comments, I don't know. This has nothing to do with castles or the castles along the Rhine that I visited as a child. And when you see them and the miserable conditions they convey, in which the people had to live, it has so little to do with the Prince Valiant universe. And so, if you want to read exact some exact representation of medieval times, you have to read Herman's The Towers of Bois-Maurice. We have a friend actually who. I'm sorry when I'm talking too much about it. We have a friend
No problem.
that plays knight. He recreates the pastimes with his girlfriend, and they go on these fairs and pretend to be in the medieval age, and they speak probably like they spoke before. And his favorite comic is the Towers of Bois-Maurice, because he said everything in it is really so that he can knit his costumes after that, and it's very on point. And so if someone is really obsessed with medieval times, he can take that comic.
Right.
Yeah.
Scott Connor was saying Foster did a lot of research, and mixed and matched different eras. And I think he took what he liked that helped the fantasy and probably ignored the stuff that doesn't help.
Oh, the helmets with these wings here. All these horns. It's
But as a boy, I used to read these books that I think came from the turn of the century that were like abridged versions of Ivanhoe and things like that, that would have these beautiful paintings of knights in armor and all that kind of fantasy of what things were like. And I just imagine Hal Foster having grown up on the same stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Just going to the comments, see if we missed anything. I don't think so, though. I think I highlighted the ones there. Very cool. Looks amazing. So with my dipping into, see, now that I'm set up, I can actually access the shelf. I've been doing this, nothing to talk about really. I've been doing kind of 1 or 2 of these a day. I find like with stuff like this, because these strips are so dense, with the kind of text underneath and then the balloon itself, I'm trying to pace myself with it so I can really absorb it a little more instead of trying to just power through each of the books. But I mean, nothing yet to say about it other than everything that everybody says about it. It's incredible. It's just beautiful pages. It's really, really nice art. This is a fantastic size as well too. So that's been really enjoyable. And then kind of on the strip side of things, I ordered this a couple of months ago at this point. So Modesty Blaise, book number 2, Mr. Sun. And the first volume was incredible. I think this volume for me might have beat it out just a little bit. And again, like I found myself, because I'm not as versed in kind of the comic strip format. But one of the things that stood out to me trying to find the beginning of the second story here, The Mind of Mrs. Drake was the second story in here. And I just really found I focused on kind of the pacing of just putting myself in a mindset of like, you know, these 3 panels are what you would have got. And then the next day you get the next 3 panels and stuff. So really trying to put myself in that mindset. And I was so incredibly impressed with this second story. The pacing of it was exceptional. And it was also a really, really great story. I mean, I'm completely falling in love with Modesty Blaise. Really, really great. The only thing that kind of disappoints me a little bit is, you know, it's just really unfortunate that Jim Holdaway passed away. His art, I have a couple of books where it's other artists on the book. They're still enjoyable reads. I've kind of dipped in here and there. I really did want to read it in order of how it was being published, though, or the time period that it was coming out. But Holdaway's art is really incredible. And I love the dynamic between the two of them. Modesty and I'm blanking on her partner's name there off the top of my head. But this was the standout story for me, this Mind of Mrs. Drake. She's sort of, she has kind of an extra sense of things. She can hold an item and get some visions and things like that. But the difference with it is that that's not played as a farce or a scam. She's working with someone who's using that information to his benefit to kind of take advantage of these people. But her power is treated as it's just a fact. She has this power, so much so that at one point in the story, they go to another person who is kind of gifted with this power right here, so they can find someone that's been kidnapped. But again, it's not played as a sham at all. It's 100% true in this world, and I found that a really interesting take, instead of playing her kind of the classic as part of the whole con game and stuff. Really, really beautiful stuff. And, they just kick ass the whole way through. I mean, Modesty and her partner there just completely beat the hell. Willie is his name. Completely beat the hell out of everybody, and it's phenomenal. If they ever did, I know that there was a movie at one point. To me, this feels like this would be a good inroad if you were ever to kind of make something as a movie. This would be the story, I think, that would work really well. You could tie in some of their origins, but this story has it all, including a big kind of almost Parker level. There was one he did, I think it was called Sleigh Ground, that took place in kind of like a fair. The end of it takes place in a circus, and I thought it worked really well also, as they tried to make their escape and are hunted down. So a phenomenal volume. And again, like starting at book 1 and 2 would be the way to go if you're ever looking to get into some Modesty Blaise, if you can find them.
They're not in print, right?
No, this is Titan stuff, but I think
I think there is they printed again. I think Titan Books has printed it again, because I started doing more research because of the mystery and the comparison of people are talking about in the letters about how they have worked together, like where they got inspired by Miss Modesty Blaise as well because of the characters and blah 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 and the genre they were doing. Anyway, I'm going to talk about mystery in a later stage, but now I wanted to talk about this conundrum I had. So I read the story, and I was like, okay, so where's the continuation? And then thankfully for Mr. Sleepy, Damien has given us one of the commenters has said that there's a volume. And the volume is called What Disturbs You, Stephen? And it says Pickerick Wrestle. And that's where my problem starts. So this volume, which contains every single work, what Pickerick Russell did with Doctor Strange, and it's not many of that stuff what he was doing. It was in actual art. Many of them were a inking he done for other people, which was like, oh, I'm getting Pickerick Russell volume, blah blah blah. I will enjoy so much art of Doctor Strange and blah blah blah. No, so warning: if you wanted to see Pickerick Russell's work, artwork in here, there won't be that many. It will be more like inker, like he was doing it for Mignola. The previous time I was talking to you guys in that mini-series I was reading, just because of the Mignola art, and Pickerick also was in inks. So the first story, which is funny enough in this, is actually the same as this, but it's a retelling. Because according to Pickerick Russell, he wasn't really happy with the story he was pitching to Ray Thomas at that time, and he wanted to redo it, and he redone it. So he in this one, in 1906, I found myself with an unexpected gap in my schedule, and Mark Andre Cook, who was scripting Calibus the Lost, suggested resubmitting the book. So he was not really happy with this, and he had some time to kill. And he decided to retell the story. So instead of Clea in the story which we have, he had his servant Wong being kidnapped. And he has done some changes in the storyline. But still, after I was reading this Wong story, it still doesn't have, like, this is a little bit of this art, redoing art. And he lovely redoing, I guess, but I really enjoyed I guess the paper does for me, and it just felt like it's so much more dynamic in his art in this edition than what he was saying that he didn't really like it and he wanted to do it. It feels in here is more static for me, even though there's so many great panels and you see that she's coming off this mirror and stuff like that. But it's still, but after reading the story, there is kind of like reward for you in a bit, but I was so annoyed with this kind of thing. I felt like I really wanted the continuation, but I've never got it in here. So, but the history part, and also in this the same volume, it's basically tell you this is what the original was, and this is what I've done afterwards, and it actually gives you the whole issue to read as well in this volume. So I was like, okay. And then also in the later one, there's a couple of more issues. So there's like I don't know, I don't really remember it doesn't really tell you the content of which issues there is, but there's a couple of things of works he have done. And there's this story which actually probably was my favorite, which came in Marvel Premiere number 7, and a story about this haunted house. And as you can see in here, this is what he was called Craig Russell in here, not P. Craig Russell as we know him, but Craig Russell. But that's his art, and it really doesn't look like him at all, to be honest. It doesn't feel that. I mean, there is some sort of, but it's a much more kind of Marvel way of drawing, like not him being let to do whatever he feels like doing, in a way. But this story is really good. It's actually quite like those House of Mystery stories with this house in some, I think it's in Cornwall. Unfortunately, the town doesn't exist. I checked in Google's because I do fact check sometimes as well. And in this house where the guy got inherited by his uncle, and then he goes in this little town where the people, every single time he's asking about this house, people shrugs him away and say like, "How dare you even mentioning?" So apparently, they have this saying, like small villages has like one area where don't go there because things happens in there, and they find this creature. And this creature is actually quite really looking like this nice purple creature that's honestly spectacular storytelling and everything else. But it's just, as I say, it has very tight like inking or pencils, whatever you can call them, art style. So yeah, I wasn't like this panel is one of my favorites of this issue.
Great.
So yeah, so the story, as I say, was of course resolved because Doctor Strange got involved by chance, flying by. He was flying by that area that time. So it was, as I say, really fantastic, and how they resolved it was really rewarding. So and I haven't finished. Oh, this panel is actually fantastic. It's telling the story of this creature, of the monster. So he was part of the really long generations, and he was defeated. But then he came back, and then the power of his is to basically manipulate every single person in that village to come into the water and basically drown them. It will be this sacrifice to him, and he will have a big of a laugh of them all because they try to what they say, they try to get rid of him, and now he's back for his own revenge. And then Clea and Wong actually was an integral part to save Doctor Strange, because he was as well struck by this creature, and Clea's words only worked to wake Doctor Strange up, and that's how they won. So yeah, really good storytelling. And then there's another one we have, which is Doctor Strange number 34. And it's funny, I was looking at this volume, I was like, I'm looking in because I do collect Doctor Strange as well. And there's most of the gaps which I don't have. The comics is actually those which is in this volume, because it's P. Craig Russell. I remembered why I never got it, because usually with P. Craig Russell, the books are more pricier. And in that time when I was collecting, I tend not to collect them with them. So it was interesting. But in here,
who was the writer?
Of which one? This story?
Or of most of them, or is it one writer, or is it different?
Yeah, it's all different.
Okay,
different
never
writers.
mind then. I thought maybe it was all one writer.
But for example, this one is Ralph Macchio.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Story, and actually is drawn by it says artist Tom Sutton and Craig Russell as well. So there's a joint one, and you can't really see, because this is really I mean, this is like more Tom Sutton artwork, as I presume.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not really big familiar with Tom Sutton, to be honest. But
usually, if there's a second artist, the second one, and they don't say who's the inker, then the second one's the inker.
Yeah, so Craig Russell's ink again, and this story as well was quite entertaining. But all of them, what my point was, this whole volume has only collected items what he was doing, and none of them have a reward at the end of the storyline. So there's continuations of it, but there's never ends. So you have to go back basically in your collections or whatever. So actually, quite a odd way of collecting somebody's work.
Yeah, that's very odd.
But it's kind of sad because, like, you would want a person like that to have some actual time to do something, especially for this kind of a mystical creature, which I would have loved to discover if he would have done it, but apparently he hasn't. So
yeah.
So this
that stand out from what you said earlier was that idea of the older comics being digitized, because they were saying it in the comments too, like there's something that really takes away from it when it's such a crisp white background, and it probably has a lot to do with how we're used to seeing it on that old yellowed paper and stuff. But it doesn't, it's interesting to have those bright colors, but Scott was saying that it's almost like a blacklight poster. It really pops to a degree that isn't always as pleasing. Like when you showed it side by side with the comic version, the comic version, as you said, looks incredible, but it has that texture, it has that coloring, that yellowed background, and
and another one which that hasn't finished reading this one. It's actually Marvel Fanfare, which is number 6, and
favorite cover.
and this one is his cover, 1982. But inside, you have a creators of Mike W. Barr and Sandy Plunkett, my co-writer and plotter and penciler, and P. Greg Russell as an inker. But in this one, we have Spider-Man, which is quite intriguing, and Scarlet Witch. And Scarlet Witch in here, she was she had a different body in here, but I never finished the story, which I was like distracted for. This is one of the last things I was reading for the week, but I'm looking forward to it because it's really beautiful to look at. One, because they all talk about the hex power of Scarlet Witch and stuff like that, and then he meets this lady here, and then she's like, "Oh, I am Scarlet Witch," and Spider-Man's like saying, "You're not Wanda. I know how Wanda looks, the red-headed lady." And he's like, so we'll see where the Doctor Strange comes in all, because I never went into as far away as this page to finish the storyline. But yes. So one of the Sandy Plunkett is the first time I've heard it. So as a creator or artist, so it's really good to look at. Actually, really fantastic looking, like characters in the panels, really nice and mesmerizing. And actually, Spider-Man really looks like Ditko Spider-Man. It's like she has really kind of like maybe researched the Ditko Spider-Man, because it just has all those lines, like finer lines, details of this webbing and everything, like like what you these days Spider-Man is. So but I was disappointed with my I'm gonna continue the storyline, and actually they rewrote the story and then they used the Wong instead. And with Clear, it had more, because of his disciple and love of his life kind of thing. It's kind of had more integrity in the storyline, but he didn't like it and put Wong inside. And then that's like, why would you? What Wong has, in that time, and like he's this. He's just a servant kind of thing. But I know it's the Doctor Strange is part of the everything else. But
man, Wong is integral, just like Clea.
Yeah, I know, but like for romantic stand and all that stuff, it would help for the storyline to be kind of more immersive, I presume. So
cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Damon, what do you got next for us?
Well, as kind of a partner piece to the Jim Woodring thing, but something I didn't enjoy quite as much, is this thing called the Martian Noir Library. And there's this...
You used that last week, right? That image for the...
I used the image, which reminded me I wanted to read it because I love the image. And this is kind of an imaginary superheroine. And this comic is like a, let's see, it shows us every issue or every book in the adventures of this heroine, although there are no actual books or adventures. So each one is, Martian Noir, Love in the Time of the Cataclysm, Martian Noir versus the Mind Parasite, Martian Noir and the Army of the Millipede. And I thought I was going to love this. And I do really like the art. And I think if I go back and just look at the pictures, I'll enjoy it more. But I was reading each little blurb for each story, and they got extremely repetitive. So Martian Noir and the Army of the Millipede. A strange thought virus spreads through the land, conjoining regular people into a rambling, many-limbed militia. Can Martian Noir find out who or what is commanding this army? And there's the army. But then, 100 pages later, Martian Noir is the fairest of them all. Martian Noir is trapped in a knockdown, drag-out beauty contest against versions of herself. Can she awake from this dream to fight her captors? My point is every caption is kind of the same. Martian Noir's in this weird place. Can she blah, 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 solve the problem? And after a while, it just frustrated me that there was no story. All this implication of story, but sort of over and over again, the same idea of a story where she goes to some new weird place and struggles and has to solve the problem. But there is no solving the problem, and it's always back to another, on every next page, back to another weird place. So it's a cool idea to make up this sort of art book that's kind of, like they do the book. I have the book that's the covers of Cerebus. This could be the covers of an imaginary heroine. If it was done slightly differently in terms of what the words were, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Of course, it's asking a lot of the reader to just read straight through, which was also probably a mistake on my part. Maybe all you're meant to do is flip to random pages, look at the pictures, and get the vague idea that there was a story there. But I do want to look for more stuff by this artist, A. Deegan. I don't know if it's a man or a woman, because it's just the initial A. Because I do enjoy the art a lot. Very talk about colors. I really like his kind of approach to color, which is both bright but subtly subdued at the same time. And the compositions are great. But I think what made me grumpy about it over time is it almost pointed out the fact that he was too lazy to come up with actual stories. Yeah. And eventually the stories he was implying were kind of the same story over and over again on every page. But as I look at, I really do love the art. So I'm sure I'll go through this many times and just look at the art and ignore the hope that there was some kind of story, or if he'd gone the Jim Woodring route and really gone surreal with his scripts, with his text to go with the pictures, that might have made an interesting juxtaposition or something. But,
it is nice art for sure. Yeah.
A funny thing is that I used to do this kind of thing with my daughter. We would make up covers to imaginary comic books. And I feel like our ideas were better than his. Our art wasn't better than his.
Contact Fantagraphics. Let's get a book published.
And another kind of clever thing my daughter started doing is making up the liner notes to DVD collections to imaginary sitcoms. So, how they'll have a description for each episode that's a few sentences long. And she used to do that, and I thought that was quite clever. She had a sitcom set in the medieval ages, which I'm sure was not kitsch at all, that she called A Royal Pain. And she actually had like 3 or 4 seasons that she'd made up.
That's amazing.
Anyway, this is awesome art, so I shouldn't be so grumpy, but actually sitting down and reading it just made it kind of an annoying process.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that word even mean? Martian Noir?
I think it's her name. I don't know if it's a play on French. Martian Noir?
It's a man.
No. I mean she was asking about Martian
okay.
Noir.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like walk black, maybe in French. I don't know.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Martian Noir.
Oh, okay. So it's
I
a
don't know.
French
Just
word.
a name he must have thought was cool. Do you know a little more about A. Deegan?
I just, if I remember correctly, I listened to a podcast with him in some interview, but one of the instances where I just listened 10 minutes or 20, not because the interview was bad, but just maybe I was sleepy or something. This year is actually pretty good. It's a sci-fi stream of consciousness tale, a silent comic for the most part, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think I have that one too. I think I bought the two together, and I just haven't got around to looking at that yet.
Yeah. There's a story. There is a multitude of stories within this book here. And, very surreal, and you don't. Yeah, I think I can read it 10 times and always come up with a different idea what he actually wants to convey there. But that's the fun of it. That one was really good, I think.
Did you cover it in one of your videos?
I guess, I don't know. In number 167.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to remember where I heard about. I thought I heard about this through. I don't know if you guys. Well, I know that some of you know Ryan, who does what's the name of his website? Four Color Apocalypse. I think I learned about it partially through him, but maybe also through you. And then I found them and I bought them both. It'd be interesting to see if he does more stuff, because it is really cool art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else you got for us there, Mr. Gray?
Speaking of learning from others, Damien showed this in a video where he just went through a pile of books, and this one here caught my interest because it is co-written by one guy, Louis Trondheim, who is, I guess, I always thought he was Norwegian, but this is bull, because he's a French guy, I guess. He writes different stuff, autobio stuff, and draws himself like this here. So,
as a funny animal.
Yeah. But pretty serious. He has a series in Mome in which he investigates the. He has the theory that cartoonists are more often depressive than normal people. That depression and being a cartoonist belongs together in a way. So he asked a lot of European artists and did a strip in Mome, multi-part series, which I found pretty interesting, especially when you know some of their work and some insights that you don't get nowhere else. But speaking of this book here, is a really nice book, even though I must say 20 euros to spend this amount of money for an hour of reading, I guess. It's pretty expensive. Very well made, rounded corners here. Really nice. And
so is that a German edition, or is that the English?
No. It's the English. I guess it's exactly the same that you.
Okay, published by Lion Forge.
Yes. And it has great art, as you can see here. I think it's a bit like Fear Agent, a lightweight version of Fear Agent, especially the coloring with a female protagonist in the center instead of the male in Fear Agent, especially here. I think, in combination with the coloring. The story is she's here as an agent who has to explore some space cemetery that blocks the way for her spaceship that I guess it's called Infinity 8. And there are these ridiculous skulls floating in space, and this is really messy. Some pages are messy, but it makes sense when you're looking straight at it. She has this guy here who has a thing for her, and she is always looking for someone to procreate with. This is some entertaining and funny story within the story, and somehow, let's see. Yeah, here you have these creatures. It's sometimes a bit Druyer-like even. There was one page. So it's pressed a lot of the right buttons for me here. This some refined or smoothened up Druyer, even though I have to be a bit careful with my Druyer references. So, yeah, overall, and there's a twist in the end, and this has to do with this Infinity 8 concept, and I guess that has to do that this story is repeated again over and over with different personnel or something like that in the next stories. I'm a bit unsure if I should continue with the series because it was fine so far, but yeah, you know.
I will
exactly.
talk about this on my next turn.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay.
So
You're being grumpy, so I have already the direction.
But I loved that first volume.
Yeah. The art is
and,
exceptional.
Yeah,
really.
The art's really cool, and the story is wacky fun. Yeah.
But very unusual for Mr. Trondheim.
Right, and I know him by reputation as kind of this leading French auteur of comics, and I know that he doesn't normally do this kind of thing. So I think I wonder if this was originally published in the U.S. market first, and maybe he felt comfortable going off in a weird commercial direction or something.
It has definitely the feel that some European wants to make some buck in the American market.
Right.
Because it has not the European format, and the art is just as much that you can fit on a smaller page.
Yeah, and it was published in individual issues by Lion Forge
Yeah.
at first.
I think 3 issues, no? Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many issues per book.
I guess 3 issues.
3 or 4, maybe even
3.
5.
3.
3? Okay.
At least the cover gallery says so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think the color gallery in this one. Oh, I know why. Because this one contains issues 4, 5, and 6. So it made me think there were 6.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh man. Sorry.
I thought it was a good deal to get a hardback for $20.
The book is absolutely okay.
But you're right; it is not a lengthy read or anything.
Barbarella and Druyer, maybe, and Fear Agent, as I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does have very much of the.
Yeah, Barbarella
those-
because of her prominent features, of course. Yeah.
But it had a very fun sense of humor, I thought.
Yeah,
that
isn't
the exactly
ending,
like those other ones.
And I really did like the ending with the green guy.
Yeah, and I can't remember the ending now. I have to relook at my copy.
It has to do with procreation.
Ah, okay.
So she's gonna have a baby, basically.
Yeah, he has maybe some success because she has always this test.
She can read people's DNA with some device, and
so
everyone
she makes
doesn't
decision.
come up being worth procreating with when she looks at their DNA.
And there's even such an ad for this Lavomatic, just to find out if somebody is worth with. And
We
here,
men or lucky women don't really have that yet.
dry skin, chronic alcoholism, libidinous tendencies, run away.
I think if females would have that your meter thingy, Earth would be gone by now. It's like,
Maybe.
no,
No one will reproduce.
yeah, no. Jesus.
After last week reading Monsters, I wanted to try to dip into stuff that was maybe what I thought might be a little more light. For the most part, I was successful at that, because I mean that was such a heavy story. One of them that I read this week that kind of stuck with me is because I've been thinking about it ever since I finished reading it. Theft Tomorrow Forever from Josh Baer. So at the end of the day, this is an absolutely stunning piece of work visually. I can honestly say that I've never seen anything like it. I ended up watching some videos with Josh Baer, and one of them, it was an online kind of class where they were talking about inking techniques, and the idea was that it was this class where they had to do kind of a comic strip on why they're punk, was kind of the premise, right? But in that kind of context, he was talking about his approach to his art style and his approach to kind of specifically placing black areas into his figures and where that idea came from. And it was really fascinating. I wouldn't suggest the whole video, but the first half hour or so, give it a listen. I'll try to remember to put the link after this gets published up on the YouTubes there. But I can honestly say I've never seen anything like this. And it's one of those things that when I was absorbed in it, I read it in a few sittings. I found it challenging, which I'll talk about in a minute. But when I kind of got used to the world, I went outside and just kind of carry on with my day. And one of the first things I saw was this couple with their hats on and hoodies and kind of hunched over their phones and doing stuff, whatever it was they were doing. But that reality kind of reminded me of his kind of characters. So it's sort of autobiographical, even though the character is called Seth is his full name, or is his real name. Theth is the nickname that his brother gave him. And it's basically the struggle of being this 20-something-year-old artist who's trying to find that motivation to kind of create, and all the while expecting that I'm going to be this phenomenal creator and I'm going to change this genre, and what's the point of doing comics if it looks like everything else, et cetera, et cetera. Like, look at these pages, man. And his use of color is really just incredible. But like I said, there was a couple of things that were challenging for me, because it's this idea. Yes, everybody has gone through something similar, this potential like lack of motivation when they're in their 20s or whatever. I'm not alone in that, either is he. And it's not something that I'm keen on revisiting psychologically for myself. So I found myself being put in this position of like, and it's again my kind of complaint about X-Men comics too, this kind of wallowing in this kind of area of this kind of directionless, nobody understands me, blah, 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 that kind of thing. So I found that got challenging for me to read at times, where I did have to put it down. One of the things that he does, though, and I really should have bookmarked the page. I probably won't find it, so I won't bother trying too much. I'll just keep showing you some pages from it. There's one panel where there's a couple of panels where he talks about what he wants to do with comics, and he wants to kind of make them challenging. His idea is, what's the point of doing a comic that looks like everything else on the stand? Then you may as well just do a superhero comic, and you may as well just pack it in. The whole point of kind of contributing to the medium is to try to push it forward, right? But I mean, a page like this, as I'm sitting there holding a page with a guy holding a page of comics, the layers and the dimension to it, it's really just exceptional. And I can't stress it enough. The art is fucking gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I have no idea how he's coloring this. I have no idea. And I don't really care to know either. I feel like that kind of pulled the curtain back a bit too much, because it probably won't be as fantastic as I'm thinking in my head. but just the way he uses the colors on the page, I think, is exceptional. And it's kind of made me want to revisit. It's just out of reach. I don't have much Josh Baer stuff. I mean, obviously, I've got the all-time comics, a lot of that. I've got one of the Suspect Devices anthologies that he put together that he was a part of. One of the things that always kind of struck me about this guy and some of these guys, like the Benjamin Mara, they're really steeped in that superhero and 90s kind of thing, which again, that's fine. That's nothing wrong in it itself, but it's not something that interests me personally. So I always felt like I completely didn't know that this book was about this. I just assumed that it was another, here's going to be a story about some character named Theth that's going to be a throwback to some sort of Marvel monster from Creatures on the Loose or something like that. I just assumed, because of that's kind of the territory that he sort of treads at times. But this was fantastic, and so much so that I'd like to pick up the first one. And there's a big Wendy O. Williams is kind of his dream girl in it, so she visits him a number of times. They have relations together, and it's just, there's so much in here that's good, even though there was a few times where I felt it went on a little long. He was good at kind of pacing it, where he was talking about this, it's so tough and I've got to get up and I just want to lie here and watch reruns of Night Court, etc., etc. I felt that sometimes those stretched out a little too long for me personally, but I will say that he would play that out for a little while and then change and sort of acknowledge that within the story and kind of make these changes till finally he ends up, it's probably the last third of the book where he ends up in this diner and he meets a guy who's a science fiction writer, but who has a regular day job in a warehouse or something. And they have a really good dialogue together. And basically this stranger reads the comics that he's shuffling around and moving and just kind of lays it out to him. Like, listen, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about here. You're just putting your inner thoughts on a page. You've got to structure things. It kind of like reads him the riot act in a sort of nice way, and also says, like, you got to get out there and get yourself a job, and you got to do A, B, C, and D, So it was a really nice way to end it. So I'm impressed. I was pretty damn impressed. And like I said, once I finished it, I thought maybe it would just kind of go away and I would just kind of move on. But I did find myself for the past few days thinking about it at times. And I think it puts you in a different place, or put me specifically in a different place reading it. Because again, there was enough there to relate to. I'm not a comic artist, but there were some things in that story that I could relate to, like, squatting in a building when I was younger, you know what I mean? Like this kind of thing that has that feel of it. It was interesting, even though it made me uncomfortable at times. I do recommend it.
What's the full title? I see the word tomorrow, but
Theth, Tomorrow Forever.
Theth.
And it's from
yeah, that's his name.
Press put out.
Huh.
So that Theth is the name of the character, yes?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
His real name is Seth, but his brother calls him Theth as like his nickname for his brother. And that's the thing. Like, there's some things now that I know a tiny bit more about him. His brother in real life is a director, and they do have this really close relationship. I guess his brother did music videos, I think. I don't know the full on what he directed particularly, but I think how All Time Comics came to be was his brother came to him with this idea of a movie or a series of movies that involved this kind of made up superhero world. And that's where All Time Comics sprang out of, because they want to kind of have something that it would be a movie, it would be a series of comics, it would be a series of stories, etc. This kind of creating their own universe. As far as I know, there hasn't been any movement on the movie side of things, but it's sort of what sparked his All Time Comics line and the fake ads and everything that goes with it, right? So,
So All Time Comics is a movie pitch. I'm a little disappointed to hear that.
Yeah, basically, or a part of a.
I get it that it's not more than that.
Yeah.
So I guess it's my turn, yes?
Yeah.
So on that kickoff, the Doctor Strange, I decided that I actually should start reading his volume 2 of Doctor Strange, And I have, thankfully, I have this issue, which is now blown out of proportion as well. Anything with number 1, I guess, that's what's really tempting for everybody. But this cover is beautiful. So Frank Brunner, if you don't guys know. So this story is still Steve Englehart and Frank Brunner. And it starts really lovely with this Doctor Strange just like looking through his like nice that mirror, that the glass, that really nice looking glass in the house, and then he is sensing something. So this story is all about how it seems to be how Doctor Strange, because of his supreme magician and blah blah blah, sorcerer of everything, and he's such a good, there's always a villain to come in and somehow try to take it away from him. And then this looking through the window, and Clea's keep on asking him, so what's happening, and why is something is wrong, and he's like, no, I'm just feeling something around us and something is going on. And then you have in the next page you have Clea, who's doing her magic, and like she's a disciple of Doctor Strange, and she's trying her best to use her magic and control, and she gets this rabbit out, and this evil enemy of the Doctor Strange decides to use this as a way in, so through Clea. And then you see that Doctor Strange, he's trying to protect himself while he's in out of spirit, like when he's sleeping. So he has all his spirit like a magical booby traps. But this guy has this clever way of using Clea and her magic to get into his house and take her away from him. Basically, and could you believe it or not, manage without Doctor Strange's suspicions to stab him. And as you can see in here, there's a stabbing, and I was like, oh my god, he's such a good also a sorcerer supreme, and somebody still managed to kind of like surprise him. And it's like the cry and like I've never, I don't remember seeing that, so I really kind of enjoyed this momentous of drama. And then he has this cloak of levitation, which is basically Doctor Strange using, because the guy disappears with Clea. And then he has magic of levitation where one brings it to him, and basically using it as a wrapping the wound and let it not bleed him out, like not him to bleed out. So that was interesting snippet of information, very good you can use. Also, I was very glad to see that my Marvel Valiant stamp is intact in this copy. I was like, I keep on forgetting they did exist, and especially they were notorious because of that 25 cents or 20 cents. And Marvel stamps were very important at that time. And Sergeant Fury says in here, but it doesn't really look like Sergeant Fury, doesn't it? It looks like just an army boy. Anyway, I digress. So this is really beautiful art to look at, and he's jumps into dimension to save Clea, of course, and he's been sucked in. And this guy who's I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the enemy, unfortunately. Concentrate more of Doctor Strange and everything. But what was intriguing in the story, it had this like caterpillar appearing because he went into the dimension. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, if this is not Wallace and Wonderland, and just mentioned that in the storyline. It's like, am I hallucinating? Am I really dying? And this caterpillar is in question, talking to him. And, it was really good, entertaining, just that kind of like snippet of that kind of used in Doctor Strange was really interesting. And so.
I think this issue is what made Frank Brunner a superstar. Yeah, I feel like I used to see these images reprinted everywhere.
Yeah, it's absolutely throughout the whole issue. I really enjoyed looking at each page, and it's really trying to look for more pages, different pages. But I guess it's just really, really well done. I think it's spectacular. It's really well moving. Him going into dimension, him talking to the caterpillar. It's just really, you see him being really hurt, and it was nice way to look at. And it's as I say, very, really good. And the story, of course, continues. It's not in this one issue. thankfully. So I was like, okay. So number 2, and in comparison, I wanted just to show you his art in the digital format. Just I need to not really prepared. Sorry. So that's the digital format number 2. And there you go. We still have the same creative team: Steve Engelhardt and Frank Brunner and Dick Giordano in inking, actually, which is kind of, I guess, that really helps Mr. Frank Brunner to elate. But as you say, white pale panels, but still, I don't know, it feels really good in digital format as well. So in here, there's, you see that the Doctor Strange head like bouncing like a ball. It's just the imagining of Clea's. It's not actually what really happens, because this dude is taking her away, and you have to, you can't be his. I'm gonna teach you the true magic, and she's imagining what really happened, and he's like bragging, I stabbed him, I killed him, Doctor Strange, and this is what she's imagining in her head. That Doctor Strange's head was severed. And another thing, what's intriguing as well, that this guy is so good that he even managed to steal Eye of Agamotto. That most valuable item for me, for Doctor Strange to have. And this guy's like, look, I have it. This is it. I am the winner. So, fantastic story, to be honest. I really liked it, and I was continue reading it. But I was reading the other volume because I was wanted to see the Pickwick Wrestle. But honestly, looking at this Frank Brunner's art in this volume is so fantastic to look at.
Yeah, so good. Yeah,
and
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and every single thing is just so. It would be like if you're reading, like that movie of Doctor Strange came out was really fantastic. But imagine seeing this in it, and there's like in this story as well, Silver Surfer appears. And all the Defenders appears in here, but they don't know who he is, the Doctor Strangers, because of that dimension, because they weren't who they were. So there wasn't really the characters. And I was like, oh my God, Silver Surfer is here, but he wasn't the real Silver Surfer of that, like what we know who he is of the Defenders. So yeah, Frank Brunner, honestly, can do no wrong for me when it comes to Doctor Strange. Because it's fantastic. Like even this panel where all of them sitting on the table, you have everybody here. You have Nick Fury, you have Hawkeye, you have Spider-Man, you have your Hulk, you have the Submariner here. Yeah, so it's fantastic, as I say. So really good.
Yeah.
If you kind of like feel like Doctor Strange, Frank Brunner should be your go-to guy. It's so nice to look at, and as I say, figures look so like movement in the art, and I don't know. Doctor Strange really needs that kind of artist who's very fluid and able to show all the spiritual, wishy bougie kind of thing. So, yeah, really enjoyed. So I read. I'm hopefully going to continue with this as far as my run goes, but I have the digital part, so which is very helpful now. Knowing that have my single issues, which I prefer, to be honest, as I told you that before, comparing two arts together. But I'm definitely glad that I can go into the story without having like, oh, chop it. Okay, that's it. You can't read it because you need to go and look for it. So my patience will be rewarded, kind of, for doing that in digital format. So
yeah. Cool, very cool.
Nice.
Makes me want to go dig up those Doctor Stranges.
I honestly highly recommend just to look at it. As I say, that Terrence gave me this book that's basically sparkled, and I was like, why I'm not reading it? Like I could just have one issue because it's enough. Like it's still in that era of quite a bit reading, but Doctor Strange is actually lighter reading than any other Marvel book, to be honest, I've read. Right. It's not so many like panels. Yeah, exactly. So it just feels like it's really good. So
it's interesting, all these 70s superstar artists, they would blossom, become incredible, everyone wanted more comics by them, and then they would disappear. Yeah. I'm not sure. Like I remember Frank Brunner moving to the indie comics in the early 80s. I'm not sure what happened after that.
Yeah, it's actually it's quite sad, to be honest, because having that kind of ability of producing panels like this, and something happens. But life,
I'm sure he found somewhere where he could make more money. I
hopefully.
assume. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed for him.
Well, I think it's my turn. I wasn't even sure whether to talk about this because I'm quite grouchy about it. So this is book 2 of Infinity 8, which promises to be eight stories, each, I think, about a different woman on this same spaceship. Because as Milan or Earl hinted at, the alien captain of the ship can up to 8 times reboot a certain amount of time. So in each book, at the end of the book, the captain reboots things back to the beginning of the crisis. So, and then the crisis is different each time. I mean, it's the same crisis that they've run into this thing blocking their path in space between galaxies. They're on a very long voyage between galaxies that they need to investigate. But the investigation goes wrong. Things go crazy. And in this version, the way things go crazy is they find the head of Adolf Hitler floating in a spaceship out in this necropolis of spaceships, or of what do you call it? Not a junkyard, like a kind of a space junkyard, I guess. But before we find out about that, we encounter these future Nazi hobbyists. And they are presented purely as a humorous thing. They're just a lifestyle group. We have beauty tips, fitness advice, and recipes. And then along comes this little alien creature who's all upset about them and complains. I guess he's Jewish, even though he's an alien. And his name is Shlomo. And so he's the bad guy in this little scene. He's the one knocking over the Nazi cups and things. I felt very uneasy about all this. So I had bought the book, and then I looked closer at it, and it took me a while to read it. And so then they go out into space. The artist is different on every volume too, and this artist is not as compelling of an artist as the artist on the first book. This artist's name is Oliver Vatine, I think. And but he does do a good job when they go out into space. That part's good. But kind of the scenes on board the spaceship are kind of just kind of lacking. But so they find Hitler's head. They rescue it, of course, because it's part of their, it's a nice callback to their little lifestyle club for Nazis. But then to preserve the head, they have to put it inside a robot body, and then Hitler's head starts taking over the robot and learns all about history and quickly starts killing people. But the other Nazis still kind of obey him, although they're like, "What? Why'd you kill him? It's a nice lifestyle group. What are you up to?" And then he eventually starts a rebellion against what he's decided is the conspiracy, is people from Andromeda are now the conspiracy people, and he starts a rebellion against them. And our heroine seems to go along with him, but eventually turns out to be working against him and defeats him just before he manages to kill the captain, and thus the timeline can't be rebooted. But it's a very facile take on the Nazis. And then when I thought about it more, there is some cool stuff here visually. But their one Jewish character is this alien named Shlomo, and then I noticed his last name is J-U. He's Shlomo Jew. And early on, he's the one the police are having problems with, and They look him up, and his name is Shlomo Jew, an ultra-Orthodox radical. He has a record of domestic abuse. And he says, I within my rights, she spoke to a man. But when that's the only Jew in this jokey story about Nazis, I don't know. It made me feel very kind of queasy. I liked the first volume so much that I'm still kind of curious what other volumes are like. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I would almost recommend just skipping this volume because each one is just kind of a standalone story in this setup of time being renewed. Mm-hmm. It makes me question, like, especially like if this is originally published by Lion Forge, who kind of specialize in diversity and comics about, you know, people with minorities in the United States and other things, how they could just say, let's deal with the Nazis this way. I mean, it is kind of funny to say, oh, Nazis are just a harmless lifestyle group in the future. And also in the given the political context of the United States now, where we do have some people who say, you know, you guys have got it all wrong about the Nazis. It was just an interesting philosophy, and the Holocaust never happened. You know, I don't know. It left a really bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't sound
so,
like a winner.
Now I know that I know that I won't pick up the second volume. That's for sure.
Paulo is saying that Vatine is French and his sense of humor is different. I mean, I definitely saw the sense of humor in it. It was kind of funny, except for the queasy feeling it gave me. And you know, maybe if it weren't for Shlomo Jew, I would have been more comfortable with the whole thing. Mm. So anyway, well, it's up to each individual if they want to read this. It's you know, I'm sure its intentions are good. Hitler is not a good guy at the end of the day.
That's relieving.
All right, Mr. Gray, what do you got?
Yeah. Should I speak about Hitler's skull? Because it's really a thing. I listened to a podcast where some police, criminal biologist, I don't know the exact word, there's somewhere the skull from Hitler, and there was the question, is it the real Hitler or is it the... Yeah.
Well, now we have proof his head was launched into outer space.
Okay. Maybe the best thing that you can do with him. Yeah. So, the next thing here is I feel a bit guilty because a guy called Scott, I don't know if I can talk about his whole name, sent me a comic book here, self-made comic book.
Wow.
Yeah, let's let this sink in about Elvis Chicken. And it lies around here for a while now because I don't know how to make a video about it, and I just don't know exactly too much about the circumstances. I thought of interviewing this guy Scott here, who goes by the handle of King Spuit. I don't know where's the is there some double meaning of this Spuit, which just escapes me. The thing is, he does as a musician, and for real, he does these weird out shows, and as this King Spuit or King Spuit, and with a friend called Elvis Chicken, who does weird cover stuff. And they obviously have a lot of fun with it. And so this here is some kind of memoir about their tours since the 90s. Wow. And it's very intriguing, the whole stuff, including Kirby crackles all over. And but music-wise, the only reference that I really understand is this guy here, of all the people, Gigi Allen. Yeah. I don't know if you know him. A pretty weird guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have some punk rock sampler with a song from him, which sounds surprisingly normal, but his concerts were obviously not that normal, and he peed into the audience, and some he was pretty weird, and died pretty early, but
of a drug overdose, like a classic rock star.
Yeah, but he goes way beyond the classic rock star mode.
Totally, yeah.
That was so. Yeah, and but here the Scott guy is pretty. He seems to be a very nice guy who happened to be in that scene. Sign me up for an Elvis Chicken cover. Yeah, Alex Ross. I don't know. So one song by him is "Baby Dangler," and yeah, it's pretty weird out and not for everyone's taste, I assume. But this guy Elvis Chicken even has a comic here that's drawn by Elvis Chicken, and okay, we can't escape the Nazi theme right now.
Yeah.
But this is more appropriate, I think, even though. And the best thing in the whole book here is that he did this together with his nephew. This one here, Soul Man 1, and the artist is depicted here. That's, I guess, the guy in the red shirt, if you see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Fantagraphics should do a contract with him right now, because this is funny, really, absolutely fun. And let's see here. Here's the fantasy, really. I mean, yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, you have to be careful with the kid, because I don't know how in which direction it will develop, but it's
quite brutal,
full of violence and fun, and soul shop.
Yeah.
So I really like the whole package here, and especially the uncle nephew thing really was something I can relate to. And the whole musical stuff, even though I wasn't, it's very in all these details, where they played, when, and so,
Amazing.
But I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that looks like a fun one. Yeah, I love it.
And that was sent to you. So do you know, is there a place where people can order it?
Oh, no, I don't think that. Maybe here, go to this address here, kingsport@icloud.com. So, he has even a user YouTube. Oh, this.
Keep that for one more second while I find the button. There we go.
So.
Oh, his YouTube channel too.
Yeah,
perfect.
I'm always a bit careful, because one time one guy sent me some stuff, and afterwards he almost panicked. No, he panicked for real, because his address was shown in the video. And then I had to blur it out. I'm not very good with that. I spent all the night with blurring out the stuff, but what can you do?
Yeah.
But I guess with this Kingsploit, he is a bit more out there and wants to get his stuff out, and he should be seen.
I had a lifetime ago, I dated a girl, and her sister went to see G.G. Allen live. She traveled out west to Vancouver to see him live. So before he died, I've still got a bunch of bootleg videotapes of his performances, including like his last one, his very last performance that, lasted like 5 minutes before he got in a fist fight and the cops came and chased him down the sidewalk, et cetera, et cetera. His performances are legendary for just being completely out of control. So,
Yeah, I
There's
never
some
found them tempting sounding.
there's
used
some
to-
stuff
when
on
I had a
YouTube
show-
that you can watch, but yeah.
When I had a show in Ontario, when I was on the radio there, I used to open up the show with Gigi Allen song called "Gimme Some Head." It was what I used to play every single time for the intro music to the radio show. So I was on at like 2 a.m, so it passed the muster back then. So one of the things I read today that I then immediately went online to his store Envy and got the rest of them was Charles Forsman is doing a series of mini comics dating back to, I believe, 2018. Yeah, so this is issue number 2, going back to 2018, and this is the second printing of it. I had a look at his Patreon, and I didn't see any kind of, level that you could contribute where you would get a copy of this. From what I saw, maybe I wasn't looking at it closely enough, there was only one entry level, like $3 a month or whatever it was, where you kind of support him while he's doing this comic. When I ordered these from whatever that last place was that I ordered from, they didn't have issue number 1, unfortunately. So it is a continuing story, at least for these first few, about this guy who you're basically, what I'm kind of assuming happened in the first one is he was part of a bank, a heist that kind of went wrong, of course, because all good heists should go wrong to some degree. So this second issue is kind of the tail end of that first story, where he gets into a fist fight with somebody that's turned on him. And then we get introduced to his, I love this page right here, is amazing. These 2 panels are incredible.
Very Frank Millerish. Huh?
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
right. Yeah, 100% right. So then we get introduced to his nephew. Is it Tommy? I'm blanking on the nephew's name. But then the story kind of opens up from there. So we take the first half where it kind of puts to bed what happened in the first issue, I assume, and then we go on to the next level. And he's trying to, he's trying to be a good kind of uncle figure to this kid who lost his mother, and is trying now to kind of take him under his wing and teach him the ways of the world. And one of the ways he's done that is he's taking him to his favorite hangout, which is a boxing gym, to teach him how to fight properly, and to kind of take care of himself. And it just kind of opens up in this third issue to he's kind of training him a little bit, takes a bit of time to go to talk to one of the promoters, because he still wants to be he's a fighter, but he doesn't want to have any big ticket matches. He wants to have stuff under the radar just so he can bring in some money. But this is also the guy who organized the heist as well. And he, in this page here, he wants to get some information on some of the other people involved. So like I said, like this caught me off guard. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. I don't know much Forsman stuff. The only other thing I have from him is this Revenger, which is entertaining as well. It's kind of like a 70s B movie or an 80s B movie. Very minimal kind of backgrounds and art style for Charles. But I did really enjoy this book. This was a lot of fun to read. Very, very kind of basic storytelling, but I love the way he breaks down action in some of these pages here. Really nice stuff.
Yeah, I really like Revenger too.
Yeah, it was really entertaining. And then the only other one I have is issue number 9, which I didn't bother reading, and it looks like we're introduced to a couple of new characters in this book. So I'm not sure how it continues. So I ended up picking up the rest that I needed to get 1 to 10. So hopefully those will come in the mail in a couple of weeks, because it's a great format. It's a nice quick read, but it's a really solid little story in each of the issues, which I don't know why that surprised me. I guess my idea with mini comics is you're only getting such a small sample that there's not enough room maybe for something that I would think of as kind of a satisfying story. But I'm incredibly happy to be proven totally wrong in this way here. And I think there's 18 issues total, and I believe it's something that he's still doing to this day. I didn't see a date on number 18. When you order from a site, you just choose the number and you add it to your cart. You don't get to see the cover for it. It's just the generic cover for issue 1, and it's a drop-down menu to order the issues. But well worth checking out, especially if you're interested in his art. It's a very, very good read.
Cool.
Rasa.
So I went there's a chance for me to start reading more of this mystery, and so I have a thing. Let me see. Oh, whoa. I'm getting confused. I'm confusing myself anyway. So I started reading it quite a long time ago, since the Comic Crack indulged me last time. He sent it to me, some mysteries, because honestly, mystery to find in where I live or wherever I try to find it from, it's very difficult. So anyway, so there's just a couple of books or covers I wanted to show you. So this is the first basically 8 issues are a continuation story where you have the from the beginning, where her husband unfortunately gets killed, and basically in issue 8 we finally find out who is basically behind it, who was afterwards killing a lot of people, and mystery was just trying to find out, which is, I thoroughly like, as always, it's a really great title to read. I love the art, I love the characters, the detective story, and I really have a really good kick for the detective stories. Another thing which was I forgot when I was reading up, like, you know, when you take a while after not reading the issues, I didn't want to start from issue 1, because I already, when you start looking at the panels from the issues, you start remembering the storyline. So it was just a quick reminder of things, but then I forgot about the child, and who the child got involved, and Mystery was the one who was placed into a custody of the child, and the child was of her husband who's dead, or ex-wife's child. Right. She gets murdered, everything rattles, bodies are flying from one side to another, one dead, and then surprise kick, which is a spoiler alert. Most of the killing was done by the granddad of a child, which was so surprising part, which I wasn't expecting. And I really enjoyed it, but I honestly, there's quite a few stories. There's a sci-fi, back matter or in between matter, but what in this issue particularly, we have this Ray Gatto story, but the art is absolutely mesmerizing. I really like it because of I don't know, it's just the way people are drawn for the era, and it's so beautifully done. And apparently Ray Gatto used to be quite well-known artist as well, but he's dead already for a long time ago now. So, but it's nice to see that the book like this have something like a gem like this to see, because you don't really see Ray Gatto's art in the comic book. It was more like, I think, I forgot really what's the main part of his art was used. I think in like advertisement and stuff, but yeah, definitely fantastic to look at. But yeah, so in order to read basically more of this story, I skimmed through everything, basically all the extra matter. I just wanted to go fully into mystery and make sure I have like reading the main part of what's really interesting me. So yeah, but one of my favorite stories so far, which is the one-off, is in issue number 9. And Mystery goes after all this, what's happening. She finally finds the killer of her husband, and then she wants to take a holidays. And of course, she goes into the holidays, and she goes into this place, very remote. It's called Mohawk Mountain House in the snow, because it's cheaper for her to get into, because this place is very famous. And then she stumbles upon the guy, a fellow detective called Mist. And then she's like, what are you doing here? And from that, basically things happens. And of course, it's like a good story where people are in one hotel and discovers murders happening, and of course the person gets murdered, and the story of previous because there is this journalist or pretend journalist who's writing a book about what really happened previously in Mohawk Mountain, and mystery is like, okay, I'm intrigued, tell me the story. And what it ends up being that she's basically trying to solve a murder again, or long forgotten murder of the guy who was involved in this robbery and disappeared suddenly without nobody, and nobody knew where he was. And the couple, because there was three of them, and the couple basically was arrested, and they come back into this hotel because this journalist invited them to in order to tell a storyline. Really good. I mean, the continuation of the story was great, and reveal it's like a good dramatic detective story where you find out the man in the wall with the money, and he never left. He was murdered. So yeah, really good storyline. Mystery is fairly entertaining, and it gives me more and more wanting to read more, of course, of her. So thanks to T and Crack or whatever for doing this for me, because honestly I wouldn't have read it. I mean, been looking through online. I always check the eBay stuff, and then there was one guy was very hopeful. One guy had to sell for mystery, but every single comic he was selling, I already have, thanks to Terrence. So I was like, oh my god, why? Like you already, I have those issues. To show me something different. But also, while I was reading it, I was just flipping through this quarterly ones. So if the cover doesn't tell me anything, it does not make me interested whatsoever in the content in the comic book, which is, I think, what's the problem with this mystery quarterly. And DC hasn't done really good justice to produce maybe the covers more standing out in the bookshelves, but inside is exactly what you'll have from previous mysteries. So you can see here, it's the same creative team, which I was surprised of what somebody is retelling it, but it's the same creative team in working for DC doing mysteries, so which is fantastic. But I haven't read it because I don't want it to get spoiled, because it seems to be I will be thoroughly enjoying this, and it continues. Because I read a couple of pages, of course I couldn't, because this lady here she's talking to, she's the daughter of Muerta, the guy who you'll know, Terrence, you know him,
right? Yeah. Yep.
So she's the daughter, and she's coming for mystery in this issue particularly. So very interesting. So yeah, mystery, you can't go wrong. And then in here you have also, I read a couple of stuff about, like who is writing. Very bitter conversations for people who comes in to talk to him, like writes the letters about mystery, and they're telling him why you always puts her with some guy who she's in love and he's a bad guy, always a bad guy. Give her somebody a good issues, like her husband, even though he's was great detective, he was previously married and blah blah blah, he was killed, and then she gets into the bed with somebody who just meets and stuff like that, and people apparently didn't like that. Because which is kind of like, she can't, definitely a female cannot be like a man and just go around with anybody she feels like, no matter it's a good guy or a bad guy kind of thing. So in that sense I was like, okay. But as a character itself,
sorry, go ahead.
As a character itself, she's great, fantastic, really. Like whatever happens to her assistant or the guy who, I forgot his name, there was that explosion in this issue, the continuation issue, when he's basically lost his hand and lost his eye, and I was like, oh my god, this is like really quite outstanding, like horrible things happening to them, but really well told, but
right.
Fantastic
well, and
stuff.
It just gets more intense for as it goes on, right? Because of the stuff that you've seen her do already. Like, yeah, I mean, Zesty Clam mentioned earlier that the art was always a bit too stiff and the writing, and I can absolutely see that, especially about the art. But it worked so well for me, that series. The longer I stayed it, and the more kind of you learn about characters, and these kind of like you're saying, this strong female character acting the way a man would in some of these kind of stories, and just that different angle. I found them really, really. The Johnny, he was talking about the Johnny Dynamite stuff. that didn't land for me as well as I thought it might, because it was that kind of not what you showed, but in later ones they go to the backup story that's Johnny Dynamite. They didn't land as much for me just because of, I don't really know why. I'm not really sure, because maybe it was too much in that kind of pigeonhole of what those stories were, with kind of the gruff man and treat dames like dames, et cetera, which there's some charm for that for sure, but I think it just didn't land as much for me. But and it's interesting looking at those DC ones. I found them really jarring for me, because the covers, I think, are pretty horrible, and they're especially jarring when then you open it up and it's his more simple kind of art style. It just doesn't match whatsoever. It's not the same universe even, that it kind of, I don't know. Yeah, they did a poor treatment on those covers.
There's the DC one, Quarterly, and I find that this art is fantastic. Oh my god, I spoiled it. I really spoiled myself. Oh, I flipped the page where it's a spoiler. Shit. Oh, anyway.
Well.
It's fine. There's 10 more issues, it's 10 issues in this Quarterly, so I'll definitely will enjoy it. And of course, they have to include some Batman in here. And also they have, which in this one, it's Quarterly, you have, I was surprised, but I guess not. It's there's a Batman the Name, and it's by Dennis O'Neill and Mike Grell, illustrator, but it's not really comic book. But Dennis O'Neill, I enjoy Dennis O'Neill Batman, so I'm gonna definitely be reading that, because it's something different, I guess, Batman wise, and looks like Batman is having a Hamlet moment. So so it will be interesting that. But the minute I start, as I say, I was reading this, and I was doing my cataloging kind of thing, and then I was like, okay, let me see if I have to I can go into it, and I read first few pages, and the minute I saw that daughter of Muerta, I was like, oh no, this is I know exactly who she is, because she was a girl in that time, and blah blah blah, and then she comes back. Right. So I was like, no, I have to stop completely, because of I want to continue the main storyline, and then surprisingly enough, apparently you can find these issues in digital. I don't know where from, because the Comixology doesn't have. I don't know who else can have it, because I was looking around, but somebody, I don't know where I've seen it or mentioning somewhere that you can actually have them in digital format, which is interesting. But anyway,
cool.
But I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
I'm really into it. Fortunately, I have to stop by issue 20, because I'm missing a couple of issues, but we'll see how the story goes. So I can hopefully skip it, but I'm really entertained. Detective stories is I really like it. It's one of the things, if it comes like Western and detective, you can mash those together. I don't think you can, but anyway, if you mash those together, I'll be the first one to buy stuff. But that's my thing. So I really like it. Even before actually guys chatted to you, I was watching Detective Storyline. So I'm completely in it. So
cool. That's good.
Love it.
Damien, what do you got?
What to be grumpy about next? Well, I barreled through Friends of the Devil. The second Reckless book, and I was not crazy about it.
Oh, good. Maybe I don't have to pick it up then.
But I know that Terrence loved it, right?
I did. I thought it was better than the first one. I enjoyed this a lot more than the first one. I thought the first one didn't hit the marks for me. It was fine, but I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I don't know, maybe it was a shift in my own head,
No, I mean, everybody, I just, for me, it felt even more formulaic than the first one. And I was kind of sad that it, but Rasa, you don't have to take my word for it. Terrence liked it. So I just don't know where to go with being grumpy about it. But
can I see the art? It's really interesting to see me.
I thought Sean Phillips' son, what's his name? Jacob Phillips, is getting even better at the coloring.
Oh,
but
cool.
I do feel that Sean Phillips is continuing to kind of go downhill a little bit.
Oh,
not massively, but
it's rushing.
There's a hastiness, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in the hastiness, his use of photo references may be more apparent, like the stiffness in the characters,
faces.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's a very, if you like mysteries, it's a very well worked out sort of mystery. It for me lacked as much of an emotional impact as the first one had, even though, it's set up to be quite horrifying. I'm trying to how to talk about it without giving it away too much, but and it had kind of in some vague way, it was kind of a follow-up to the Fade Out, because it was this time looking at Hollywood, or a part of Hollywood of the 70s. And it's boring because I have my perennial complaint about people not portraying eras correctly. He makes a big deal about this being the 80s, 1985. But I don't think you could tell the difference between the 80s and any other era in here.
Right.
We see. I might be wrong, but I have this memory that these bicycle messenger bags became really popular in the 90s. But, I could be wrong about that. Maybe there were plenty of people in the 80s with bicycle messenger bags. I did, when he gets tased by some bad guys. And I thought, that's strange. And I looked it up. Tasers were not available on the market till 1993. So that shows you what a stubborn, cussed guy I am that I looked that up.
Black market tasers, Damien. I
guess so, yeah. The earlier experimental tasers were not in a gun-shaped
right
kind of thing. But they really weren't in use until 1993. But that's minor. It is, on the surface, it's quite fun. The Hollywood cults and B movies, Richard Corman type of movies and stuff are kind of hovering in the background here. But, maybe it's just a case of when you read it and when you're in the right mood or the wrong mood. To me, it felt like it was going through the motions. And when I got to the end and I'm looking at, here's our other books, I'm thinking, wow, these last 3 graphic novellas that they put out, I really loved. And I just did not have that reaction to the Reckless books. I would much rather some more pulp, or, it can't be the same thing over again, or my heroes have always been junkies. That kind of stuff I connected with a lot more than with this. He is purposely homaging these kind of 70s and 80s men's detective novels, right? Just the way the covers are lets us know that. But
it's interesting you say that, though, because I would agree with you that I would much rather have, because pulp and those things, they're phenomenal. And I think that for me is what it was about this one. I felt this was comfortable, this was back to their comfortable genre where I knew pretty much what to expect. And it was, it wasn't like it was, putting on a comfy sweater or whatever that expression is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's that type of world. Would I preferred something else? 100%. I would love for them to do these one-offs and keep going with that, as opposed to kind of what is it? It's going to be a trilogy or 4 issues or whatever.
Well, they want to do 3 a year. I don't know how many years they want to do it for.
Yeah.
But it's it was a very well constructed mystery story, and maybe I just wasn't in the mood for that right at this time.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's looking at the art in here. It looks stiffer as well, which is kind of weird for him because it's used to. I think, not saying anything because his son is learning and everything, but what helps Sean Phillips is his colorists, who is enhancing the level of, because I think he used to be using more ink in the facial expressions. Now he barely does that, because that really helps to tone out your shadow lines and everything else. But now, because of maybe the rush, and I think that's what it is when you're producing a volume of more than how many pages? There's 40 pages, I think it's in the storylines.
I think these are about 150 pages, 120
oh, that's
pages.
even so imagine doing that continuously and doing that in the year for 3 of them. So imagine how much art he has to go through and the rush he has to do it. So I think that's really sad, because I know what they're trying to do to make themselves appeal to markets, and you want to evolve themselves in somewhere else. But then if we who are fans, like say I've read quite a thing of Sean Phillips, and then magazine styles, which I was showing to you guys before, that was superb Sean Phillips. But he had Elizabeth Breitweiser, who's unfortunately not working now because of other things of, point of views and everything, whatever she does. But she was superb to enhance his art, and his facial expressions, the characters were so much more expressive and so much more fluid. Because the shadowing, using, I guess, shadows of usage of shadows, it's really important and that stuff like that. But I see how it goes, because the thing is with those Reckless books, I mean, I'm a fan. I would like to continue the story to read, but I'm griping with that art style, and that doesn't help me with the storyline, because as I say, I keep on telling and repeating, I really like to see art first, and then storyline, of course, really helps to me. And then Brubaker does really good mystery stories, which I am really a fan of. But yeah.
How did you find the art in the second volume?
Too much, but I mean, at the end of the day, they're setting their own schedule. So if he's feeling rushed, then put out wait 2 months to put a fucking book. You know what I mean? Like you're not beholden to any sort of schedule, right? So it's one of those things of But again, I think I said in a video, when I went and kind of sat side by side with the criminal stuff and this stuff, yes, there's differences in the coloring for sure. But I mean, his art wasn't as dramatically different as I sort of remembered it by looking through that first Reckless book. It wasn't in my mind. It was dramatically. It was really far apart. But when I actually sat down and put them side by side, it wasn't as dramatic as I made it up in my mind, right? So. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So maybe we're just getting pickier on him, and he hasn't changed that much.
Or maybe we're just getting tired, you know what I mean? And I think that's something we've all talked about at some point in these hangouts, that it does kind of, it's not a style that was necessarily something I was into as when I first discovered, but maybe it's one of those things I've ridden the wave of really enjoying it, and now I'm back to my initial kind of idea about it, that it's it's serviceable, I guess. It's it's good enough to get me through the story.
So is this the second volume of the 3 of them coming out in the year? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the second of 3 planned for a year schedules.
So my question is it for me, because I usually tend to buy one kind of volumes a month. Is it for me more worth it to buy Cruel Summer than Reckless? Because you both.
I would vote for Cruel Summer.
Yeah,
me as well.
I was thinking about that as well, because I'm really drawn to the same thing was happening with the Barry Windsor Smith. Was it this book or the Reckless? And I definitely really happy I bought Monsters, of course, because it's still in my mind. Especially doesn't help when you see Earl Grey video, a very short video, but upset me quite a bit at the end. But with true intentions, nothing to say, nothing about it, but just gave me more feels, and it's like, oh my god, this monster's doing it to me again, kind of thing. So anyway, I definitely want to read Cruel Summers.
As far as this goes, it's not even an argument. This is 100% where you have to go. If you're picking between the two, there's no doubt in my mind you need to go this route instead of Reckless. Reckless can wait for as long as it takes, so you can find
Interesting. I put my 2 Reckless books on the shelf, and they are staying there since they've got them.
You haven't read them yet?
No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, sometimes too much stuff or older stuff that I want to read first or read again.
Right.
But that's maybe the thing, that I'm overfed with Sean Phillips' art as well a bit. Can be, even though I really love Criminal and I love all the books that are in that universe, like Cruel Summer and so on.
Yeah, I definitely want to read Cruel Summer because of the brother's history, and that's basically what it is. And it's just in the back of my head, I have this, like storylines in my head, seeing how he would be taking the story, and so yeah. So
I think with each volume or each story of Criminal, there's a different rhythm, a different voice, and to me, this had the exact same story rhythms and voice and as the first volume. So, I mean, that's not necessarily bad. People enjoy series mysteries, but maybe my expectations of Brubaker is a different feel, even when it's always variations of these criminal noir kind of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct.
There you go.
The Bananarama effect.
Cruel Summer.
All right, Mr. Gray, take her away.
Yo, since we are all fans of Rain Like Hammers,
Yes.
do you have this, Terrence?
No, I do not.
No.
I have it. In fact, I just pulled it off the shelf, and I was thinking about doing a video about it.
Oh, okay. Then, well, I keep it short here.
No, don't keep it short. Don't keep it short.
Okay, it's by Image Comics and sort of an art book collection of different stuff by him, covers, posters, drawings. And what I really found interesting in particular, and that's maybe the reason why I want to show it today, because here's a drawing he made in 2018. And it's obviously one drawing that he made for Rain Like Hammers.
Oh, yeah.
So
amazing.
And he says it's the first drawings of the characters Brick Block and Elf from a comic called Rain Like Hammers that I'm drawing now, 2018. So
wow.
Cool.
He works a while in advance, which is good. So
that's amazing.
And a lot of flashbacks to stuff that I really liked and almost forgot. An unthankful guy that I am. This is Prophet.
Yeah.
That he has done from Prophet that he has done with his gang like Farrell Dalrymple and Simon Roy. Right. Yeah, and so on. And I can't say that I have read this book here from cover to cover this last week. It's one of these books that you pick up here and there, but especially this stuff here really makes this book worthwhile for me. It's like these parts in the back of Rain Like Hammers, where he explores and tells a bit about the stuff that he likes. So here, for an example about Paul Pope's comics, a panel by Paul Pope and other stuff that he discusses a bit. There's a take on riffing on Wally Wood's 22 panels that always work. Here. Yeah, and he has his very special own opinion about it. Even though if I'm being honest with you, I always heard about Wally Wood's 22 panels that always work, but never read it. And so he goes on and talks a bit about his ideas and philosophies, and you always can recognize him because of his elephant tattoo on his neck.
He always portrays himself as much less attractive than he seems to be in photographs.
Yeah, don't know. Here are some photographs as well. Yeah, and Oxtane, an Oxtane cover for his buddy James Stokoe.
Yeah,
but his art is nothing to sneeze at either. And if you so it's just a book full of beautiful art, interesting thoughts and ideas. And again, beautiful art.
Wow, okay, that's amazing. That's really nice.
Yeah, these are. I put markers in this book, but it's pretty random because you can really open that book up at any page and have interesting stuff to look at.
Such a unique vision. Like it's really, you know, it's rare that you can see an artist that you can see some of the influences, but still they have this really unique take on things. He's one of those guys, man.
Yeah, a mix from manga. His especially the way he draws women reminds me very much of Milo Manara. Even though the way Milo Manara portrays women drives me crazy because it's always the same thing. It works on a biological level, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's so repetitive, and I say, yeah, you got me there. Okay, it works, but please. So, and I want to ask Damien if he came across one of these posters that
it says Stumptown, doesn't it?
Yeah, Brandon Graham did obviously some stuff for Portland events. And
I'm sad to say I haven't.
I would so go out there with some knife and looking out for stuff and to pull it off from some wall.
Posters get covered up so quickly, you know, on the on the lamp posts.
And here's one ad or poster he did for that Inkstuds guy.
Right. Robin something or other.
I put a marker in it because I just want to ask if someone of you knows what's up with this guy, because he haven't made a video, an interview for 2 years or so.
No, I follow him on Twitter, and he just hasn't done it anymore. I've got there was a collection of some of his interviews in a book by Conundrum Press. That's worth. But I loved his show. It was a really interesting podcast. I guess I don't know. It was kind of before podcasts, maybe, I don't know. But I've seen him on Twitter, and he doesn't. I actually bought some books from him. He was selling off a bunch of his comics, and I bought a couple of things from him. But yeah, he's not. He's kind of inactive when it comes to that stuff, unfortunately.
But he's all well and fine. That's good to hear.
Yeah, he seems to be fine. Yeah,
this picture made me think of you, Milan.
Yeah. But actually, this one I don't like too much because
you don't.
It's a bit rushed. I like the idea of this homage to Love and Rockets, and that I found neat, and I thought, hey, he loves the things that I like.
The real flaw of this is it's too generous. I think I started thinking about doing a video on it, and it was like, there's so much here. I don't know what to say about all of this.
Yeah.
So I mean, people should, if you at all like Brendan Graham, you should get this sketchbook because it gives you so much. I do wish there was hardback with nice binding or something. Because it's not, it's paperback, and it's a normal paperback, so there's no special binding. You get the gutter loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty amazing. Just
really amazing
what all this guy has done and his unique style and everything.
Yeah. Very cool. That's very cool. I have to keep my eyes out for that. I don't know where I want to go next. Oh, maybe this one. So in the world of kind of getting some indies and stuff, I read these the other day. So Professor Dark issue number 1 and issue number 2 that came out, like the first issue came out in 2015, and then the next issue came out in 2018, and as far as I know, there isn't a third issue. They do talk about a third issue in here. This was a really fun book. The art, again, the art is incredible in this. This kind of pen and pencil type of illustrations here, I thought worked really great. The story is kind of this guy who is hunting for this artist who did hunting for work from this artist who's done some really dark paintings, and apparently it's never kind of it's never proven to be true or false, but the legend is that he killed his own family and did some of these really intense paintings that they find in this house where apparently he grew up and where these murders took place. And it just kind of spins off from there. So he's got his assistant with him who is terrified of kind of going into this house. And as they kind of explore deeper into the house, all of a sudden our main character, I love, actually, just as a sideline, I don't know if I've ever seen panels quite like this before, where we're getting a slice of the character behind the panels on this diagonal cut. I thought that was a really nice use of a page as he's kind of telling the history of this painter. I mean, he's kind of made it his life's work to, I'm guessing that this professor comes from, he explores the kind of the darker realms of things. So he's telling within art and that sort of thing, he's retelling the story of this painter. And apparently at one point he was put in an asylum and painted with whatever he could get his hands on, including his own shit, and eventually chewed off his own fingers and started painting in blood. So it's this really just crazy story. And they get into the basement with some phenomenal pages here, walking down the stairs. And all of a sudden, in this side here, as we're following, Professor Dark is here and his assistant is there following through the panels, he disappears. Just at the edge of a panel there, and using that panel border to break it up, he disappears, and there's a torch on the ground, and he's transported to, he wakes up kind of in the middle of the desert, and it kind of just takes this turn out of nowhere, where he's met with some punkers, some thug punk rockers that are going to teach him a lesson and steal his wallet, and we realize that there's something else going on with him, because they cut him up a couple of times, and he starts growing these kind of tentacles out of his arms and out of his body and out of the cuts, and he dispatches the thugs pretty damn quickly. So it's a very, very unique. And then cut to 3 years later when they continue the story. I would say that this is, like, art-wise, this is probably my favorite of the two. Story-wise, it's sort of where it falls apart a little bit, but the art in this one is takes it up a notch. And one of the things that stood out to me was this sort of griffin type character. We get introduced to some more characters who have sensed this evil presence, and one of them transforms into this sort of griffin type of creature. So we get this full page with just, again, stunning artwork. So this was a hell of a very unique read, to say the least. Like I said, story-wise, it sort of falls apart a little bit in this second one, but it's just such a unique premise, and clearly done by people who, it's not like they're pumping this out like a Sean Phillips. It's taken them years to kind of get things going. From what I understand, these were all, I don't know if they were Kickstarters or if they were through, like, funded by, like, Patreon or something. But these were the only things, and this was from the Sonatina Comix company that I've got a couple of things now. This was the main book, and it was nice enough for the writer to sign this second issue for me, which was a nice little added touch there. So much fun, and again, another one of those things of making me want to keep digging and kind of trying to uncover some of these mini and small press companies and try stuff out, because you're met with stuff like this, it's a real surprise. Cool. And that's me.
Cool.
Go ahead, Rasa.
Okay, so my last one. This is my last what I've read or managed to read. Oh, interesting. Anyway, so I did Thorgal because
nice.
of. I guess I needed a Canadian friend to get me reading this, and then I discovered. Yeah, and discovering that they published this stuff in UK, which was surprising as well. And I went to so is all the Cinebooks you were talking about? They are, because this says ninth Cinebook. Is that any different to Cinebooks you were talking about in your videos?
No, exactly. They're exactly the same company. Yeah.
Okay, so I went to their website, and now it's a rabbit hole you just put me into. Because I went to I shouldn't have done it, but anyway, I went to their website and they have shitloads, and the prices aren't bad. You know that another one is it 13? You know that you were talking about.
I love 13.
Yeah, they have all of them, and they're in stock.
They sure do.
And I was like, oh my god. Anyway, so this is really good, and thank you for sending me. I just managed to read the first story of Thorgal, how he came, because there's the companion too. There's how do you pronounce Aricia? Aricia is a name, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but so I started reading this basically how Thorgal came to be. And it's really an interesting take of this Vikings their travels and finding this land where they can basically get their riches. They get stuck in this storm where they start blaming the captain because they came out like there's 150 and went out and only 15 left, and they're going into this like they're gonna pray to the gods and like sacrifice a leader of them because they put them in the situation, and then they say you agree to it, and then suddenly they see this light, and upon the light they discovered everything clearing and this mysterious package which is in there. I don't know.
Sorry, Rasa, 1 sec. I don't know what
I think that was my fault somehow.
Oh, okay.
So, and then you discover that in this little package there's a baby. and the baby surprise, and then that's how and honestly that's like the art is so good, but the second story in here for metal that didn't exist, what sealed me wanting to read more of this Thorgal. I really enjoyed this gnomes story where they had this snake creature. And they were like giving me my name back, and I was like, why are you talking about the names and stuff like that? And then find me this jewel which doesn't exist, and this is one little gnome, although they have so many of them. It's like you have 1,000 years to find this metal, and then you have like so you will see all the journey of these people, and now there's only one guy who got this job because he's the youngest gnomes of them all, and he's go searching for the 1,000 years, and about to finish his search and feeling despair, he finds this kid, and the kid is Thorgal, and he has this little it's a nut. They say, I've never seen this metal before, what is it? And then it's really good storyline. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and honestly this is really good story to read to your kids. It has the magical feel to it, right. The characters, they are quite mystical. This guy is fantastic. The giant
to Lillian, and she was really getting into it. She loved it.
Yeah, and then this giant is fantastic with like 4 arms, and then you have these creatures which flying, and I was like, okay, so this is, and then you notice that they are cats, and you're like, what? Flying cats, and then vampire snakes, and it's just like fantastic tale. Really, really good, and I thoroughly, as I say, the art is really good. Rosinski, because we both read, it was Rosinski which we read the Western, isn't it? He's the same artist.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yes, and I had the same, like, oh my god, okay, so this is the same feel to it. And I was like, surely the Thorgal wouldn't die, and he was stabbed, and then you have this the mythology of this queen coming in, and don't worry, because I don't know how to pronounce the name of the gnome. It's TJAH, and then I can't. Tazi, is that the name of the gnome? I don't know. Anyway, it's really those funny letters. This really doesn't help you, especially. Thank God the main character Thorgal is managed to pronounce. But the scene in the woods when he's going for the talisman and he's going for the hunt and he's really hungry and there's rain is so beautifully done.
It really is, yeah.
The detail of the forest, the rain, and the feel of him being like I'm really hungry, I really need to eat, and then he's going to find this creature, and then in this talisman storyline, basically you find out of real origin of Thorgal, which was fantastic because where he went, and I didn't expect that they were going to space and the previous people, because there's something happened on Earth, and then you have this they escape the Earth. The Earth survives, of course. They have new generation of like humans, let's say this way, and then the previous generation comes in and they want to destroy it and take over once again, because that's how humans are, why you spoil something, you escape, you come back to it when everything's fine. So really good storyline, and then who that supposed god was, and it ties in really well in the storyline. And as I say, art is fan-bloody-tastic, to be honest. It's really good, and of course it really helps because all the stories ties in and everything. It seems like he just dreamt about it, but that's part of the mythos and everything. And then you have, because what happened at the gnome story, he had this name Aricia, and apparently Aricia will be another character in Thorgal, and that's her, which I haven't read yet, because I do really I like to take my time, and it's such a beautiful book. So I was like, I have to really do my because look at that next page. It's like, come on, man, look at that forest once again. It's so beautiful. So
the colors are so good.
Yeah, exactly. And then I flipped this page, and it says there's this website. The cinebook.com doesn't work anymore, by the way. It's cinebook.co.uk. What works.
Okay. Yeah.
And then you go into their page, and they have oh my god, every single catalog, whatever you were talking about. I was like, what the hell, man? Because you haven't told me that on your videos that about this website. And I was thinking, because I was looking through eBay and stuff, and eBay is the prices are from this to that. There's quite a few actually Thorgal ones which are out of stock, even in their own website, and I looked at online as well. They don't have it, so I guess there's some volumes is difficult to complete. But anyway, I'll definitely, because the for example, the prices. There's the latest Thorgal number 22, £7.99. I mean, come on, man! 48 pages is fine. You buy a comic book for what, £3.50, let's say, pounds, and then it's 20 pages these days. So having for £7.99 to get the volume, especially on let's hope it's going to be similar format, because it does really help that it is bigger, a little bit bigger than the comic book as well. So because of that, I
have the first 10 or 11, I think, and they're all the same size. They change in kind of thickness a little bit, but I actually have the next 3 volumes on their way to me right now through the mail. The thing that I never really used the Cinebook website to buy them. I was doing the book depository because they had sales as well. So the price was so cheap, and then they had sales, and then it was free shipping, that I got sucked into that rabbit hole, right? So that's how I've been getting my Thorgal volumes.
So the Thorgal volume 3 apparently and volume 5 is hard to get.
Oh, really? Hey, just check a book depository. They have, I'm pretty sure they have all of them in stock.
Yeah, but because there's showing you what it was. In here you have 20 in this one, but there's 22 of them now. Yeah. So it's cool because they have. Yeah, because there's all this on this website. They have, as I say, whatever you talk, Valerian, and then the thing is, when you order 4 more titles, you get free shipping. So I might.
Oh, I see.
In the UK, so in that website, so I might have a look if I maybe plan up buying and buy several, so I get those free shipping, so I don't don't spend more money on it. But yeah, definitely really good, very entertaining, beautiful art, and it's such a good feel to it afterwards when you're reading. I don't know, it just gives you that nice feel for when you're wanting more. And seeing that differences between the Western and this, it's really, really good. Oh my God, what are you
And
having
honestly,
now?
it just gets better and better. Oh, what do you got here? Hold on.
If you will go the whole Thorgal route here, these are the black and white library editions. I don't speak French very well, not at all actually, and reading is even more difficult. But what I the other way around. But what I really like is
the patterns.
There's incredible art here.
Wow.
Side to side with my German books, and then I know what's going on. And a bit of French I can pick up here and there. But his art, Rosinski's art, even though his coloring always is so integral to the artwork, it works really fantastic just in black and white. And these books here are fantastic.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it looks like the black and white really holds up well.
Absolutely. And let's see if I can flip to some pages here. Yeah.
Look at that.
There are some similar books out for Blueberry and so on. They have the whole collection, the whole storyline from Thorgal in this format.
Don't start. Don't say Blueberry. Just please don't say Blueberry.
What do you have something against Blueberry?
No, it's my favorite.
I
absolutely love it. I'm gonna go back and read again. Anybody mentions Blueberry, and you particularly, because you have those nice volumes, which it's not in a language I read, unfortunately, and I just really want them.
But we are on the same level here. My French is as bad or as good as yours, and so
that's beautiful.
Blueberry. Wait a second.
Grab it. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm probably gonna have to go read Blueberry again, man. Jesus.
Yeah, it's a good point, though. I mean, something like that in a collected edition. I have the English. That Thorgal black and white. I mean, what's stopping from getting
What is this?
What the heck is this?
This is the French. Möbius did some. I guess when Charlier, it's just available for some of the Blueberries, but it's Blueberry in black and white and oversize.
Oh my God!
And unfortunately in French, but hey, I don't care.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that!
It's just, and there are 3 or 4 titles in that fashion, and it's.
To be honest, I think I'm gonna do the same route as you do now. I'm gonna look for this big stuff, and then I just do English one next to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's by Dargaud, and you have to look for. I guess it's Édition Noir et Blanc.
Okay.
Yeah. Edition black and white. That's the stuff you have. I don't know. Can you read it?
Yeah.
I guess that's the code word to all this. Comanche is out there as well in this format. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely that's the thing. But that's the thing. The Blueberry and Charlier and Mobius, because of the problems with the publishing and that the whole story of them not agreeing with each other because one did this and they want that publishing, then the son got involved because dad died. That whole story is basically what's stopping us to enjoy the Blueberry and the whole thing. Because of people has rights for this, then you have people rights for that, and then he wants this for the money. And then basically,
I don't understand it because we have already the next edition out of Blueberry. I have a bit older one and not this huge oversized, but European album size. And now there's a new collection of integrals, collected editions, and so there's an abundance here. And the audience in Germany is for sure not bigger than in America. I think it's the other way around.
There's something keeping Mobius from being published here, and I don't fully understand.
Maybe his wife. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's some estate issues.
Mm-hmm.
But then if it's not affecting it in other countries or other languages, it's strange.
Maybe they have a rights for some things, and who is the rights to publish it anyway? You know, I don't know.
How are you all feeling? Do you want to go one more round of talking about books, or how do you all feel?
Well, I'm done with that. This is my last read. So if you guys want to still continue another round, it's fine. I'll listen. I can listen.
How are you feeling there?
How about
break? Because it's later for you there.
Yeah.
I have nothing to do tomorrow, so one round is okay for me.
Okay, let's do it. Damien, you're up there.
Okay, well, I think that Scott Connor's still in the chat. Because of him, I bought 2 art books by Mark Schultz.
Wow.
I think this one was on sale. I was going to pick up this new one that's in hardback, Carbon 4, and this is Carbon 2. And Schultz is only really known to me for Xenozoic Tales, and I guess these are either commissions he's done or what do you call them? Covers, maybe alternate covers that he did for people. So it's cool that a lot of these have the pencils and the inks. And as Scott's kind of pointed out to me, Schultz is very much continuing on the tradition of Frank Frazetta in a lot of ways, and sometimes seems to maybe even outclass Frank Frazetta here and there. So it's a lot of fun to look at these. I don't have any deep thoughts about Schultz or knowledge about him really, but I'm very glad I got these. And the hardcover, I didn't even realize I was getting a limited edition, 800 copies signed. Now I can't remember what I spent on it, but let's see. A lot of women, but a lot of cool science fiction and fantasy scenes too. It makes me very sad that, to my knowledge, he's not really doing ongoing comics anymore. Although I think Scott told me about something, and I now can't remember what he told me. And I know that for a while Schultz was writing for DC Comics and such. He even wrote one of DC's not much acclaimed series on the Spirit. I don't know if at least I haven't ever heard anything about that. So these are nice continuity pages here. So let's see. Yeah. So anyway, these are fun. There's this fairly obscure publisher that does art books called Flesk, and you can order directly from their website. And the prices aren't bad, and they often have sales. At least, I don't know what the prices would be when you have to ship to other countries, though. And I got a Jack Williamson book from there, nice hardback one. But then I got this one on sale. Sorry, not Jack Williamson, Al Williamson. And I've gotten Steve Rude books, art books from them too. So anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice.
So I've been meaning all along, or for many months now, I've been thinking I ought to be doing videos on my art books, because I actually have a lot of different art books, just maybe 2 shelves worth somewhere that I should make videos about, but I never do.
Yeah. Very cool. Mr. Gray.
Then it's my turn. A book that I just started reading, to be honest. I'm in the first third, but it's already one of my favorite books of the year, I have to say. Bram Stoker's Dracula, done by Georges Bess, I think. I don't know how it's to be pronounced. He did the same artist who did The White Llama with Jodorowsky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But this is more classic black and white art. And I mean, the story is, everybody knows the story. So it's just the question how to do it. And quite frankly, I have the version of by Mike Mignola, which is fantastic. But this here is even better, I have to say.
Yeah, gorgeous pages.
Yeah, it's just fantastic art. And just because the story is no surprise, you can even more focus on the art, I think. And just here the landscape with this huge skull hanging over it. It's very close to Bram Stoker's text, which I've never read, but there are some details that weren't were new to me about some ship that is, I don't know. Some details are new, so it's the text in itself here is more detailed than in the other comics that I know. Look at this castle here with the bat wings.
Yeah, amazing.
Over there.
Really amazing.
This is really a treat. And and then you have our guy Dracula, who is crawling the wall, down the wall. And on the next page, in pure abstraction, I think, because you can't really see it. How he starts flying the bat. I don't. It's fascinating, and this page here as well, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really eye candy so far, and last page that I will show you here.
Wow.
Art Nouveau style.
Very cool.
But
Such a nice contrast to having all the previous, or a number of previous pages with heavy blacks to all the white in the background there.
And this, I guess you can't see it here in the video, but there are some details drawn with a pencil with in gray over the black. So it has in some places even some artist edition quality to it. So it's just really great. So a 70s Warren magazine feel. That's right, absolutely. And the book is fantastically made and really shows what some guys can do over here with limited editions, but for a okay price, I guess. I hope. I mean, this is such a big work of a famous and important artist. This has to be somewhere available in English. I'm sure.
This edition is only French and German, apparently, not English.
Because
it's a
French.
prestige.
This is a German version. I guess it has to be
Yeah.
French. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I exactly the same cover. It's a prestige format, they call it. This edition you're showing to us, not in English. I didn't see anything. While you were talking and showing the art, I was looking already because I really enjoyed the way it looks.
Ross
Nothing in
is,
English.
Ross is our researcher. When stuff comes up,
Yeah,
he's always
okay.
typing away, searching it up.
No, I'm looking to see if there's also because you also showed so many great hardcovers, and unfortunately, they are not in the language we read, which is really so disappointing.
Yeah.
Because usually those you show, the quality of the hardback looks phenomenal as well, and the way it's printed and produced. So
I had French in school, but I never listened to my teacher. Now I know why I should have listened to him, just to read my comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also an Esteban Morato Dracula. I wonder how that compares. Because those that's the 70s Warren feel also.
Yeah.
Would be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So to kind of tie it up all together, so just the last two things, because it's very brief talk about as I go way back. Kind of in the art book vein. This is Heroical issue number 1. I did some looking into David Plunkett, and he has 3 of them. If you search up his name and the title Heroical, you'll come to his website. He has a deal where you can buy all 3 from him if you're interested in it. It's got a nice die cut cover there that leads into the inside. He's, like I said, he's mainly a designer, but he does have an interest in comics as well too. So he kind of does a 1-page strip on one side of the page, and then sort of some more just artwork on the other side. It's a beautiful edition. It's nice and oversized. You know, you're just looking at nice art is all it is. The stories are whatever they pass, but it's about the presentation of this whole thing. I'm curious to see the other editions, or the other issues rather. I'll get a nice double page spread there. So that was a lot of fun to kind of sit with, especially in that bigger format. And the one that I read today, that I finished, getting closer to the screen, is Bloodhorn. So this one is with that anthology Reptile House. This was the one story that continues through the first 5 issues. It's kind of this guitarist character is wanted by the police. She's kind of traveling across the countryside and wreaking havoc where she goes. We get some reproductions of metal band posters on the inside covers. And it's a battle of the bands. It's a sort of a heist. It's a violent slugfest. It's ridiculous, but I absolutely loved it. It was a really nice, very, very light read. The art is pretty incredible on some of the pages when you really get into it. There's some really nice moments. Stuff like this, for example, is pretty great, with the Bloodhorn title and them in their kind of rock star poses. One of the other ones that stood out to me was
looks like a classic underground S. Clay Wilson-esque.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. One of the other good ones is there's a band in the Battle of the Bands called Fentanyl. And their page, it's basically they're heroin junkies, and their music puts everybody in a trance, and they all fall. The Battle of Bands is taking place in a bus station, so people that are waiting for the bus are just kind of they have to put up with this Battle of the Bands. So Fentanyl goes on and knocks everybody out, and then Narcan come in to resuscitate people and save people so they can show them the error of their ways and help them out of their drug-induced slumbers, etc. So it was a lot of fun, and like I said, some of the pages are just exceptionally drawn. So this is Reptile House Comics out of Philadelphia. So you can get the Reptile House anthologies from them, and then they also have plenty of copies of this. It seems like, but a really kind of light, fun read, and a pretty substantial book too. So that was a nice way to kind of end the week of reading this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Any final thoughts from everybody? Thanks very much for everybody hanging out in the chat as always. It's nice to see some new names, including Irvin, and I think we had a couple of other people who popped in and popped out. So it's great to see everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks
Yeah,
very much for joining us,
I'm still
everybody.
chugging away on my stack of this week's comics, so there'll be a video soon. I didn't get to any of my mainstream stuff. That is what I really read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, did you guys get Carmen? Number 3?
I haven't gone to pick it up yet. I have it at my pull list, but I just haven't had a chance to make it.
I'll be curious everyone's thoughts on that, but because I think it takes another turn that I didn't expect.
In a good way or in a grumpy way?
Let's just say it turns away from the feeling that it's like Little Nemo and becomes more psychological.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Very interesting.
But I'm not really explaining myself very much. But
Yeah.
You
Can
want
you
to?
give us a sample of like one of the first pages just to whet our appetite?
I didn't hate it or anything. Let's see. It just I don't know. Maybe we're starting to get towards what it's all about,
Right.
and that inevitably makes it a little less abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's interesting. I now realize he's imitating wide-angle lens kind of photography here.
Mm-hmm. Fisheye.
Fisheye lens. Yeah, that's the right term. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really
It was
nice.
good. It was good. It was just not. I was mentally going in a certain direction after issue 2, and I kind of pivot slightly.
Okay. Well, I'll have to make it down this week to pick it up then.
And I forget. Are you getting it, Rasa?
I'm not. No, after
You're not getting it. Oh.
after first issue, I was just like, it's too mentally for me. It went to the areas where my brain went a little bit not there where I wanted to. So I just like, okay, no.
I'll wait for the collected edition. I hope that there will be some in German, maybe a bit
Bigger
album size. Yes,
I hope there will be a bigger English collection too.
Yeah,
I agree. That would be
I
nice.
would because the art is really top notch when it comes to the comic art. So just ignore the letters. I probably will get the collected edition as well, like Earl Grey here, because hopefully they will. And if it would be in the bigger format, that would be even more like no brainer to get it, something like that. So definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Right on, everybody. So we'll cut her there. Thanks very much, everybody, for hanging out, and thanks as always for this extra special guests that we have with us every week. It's a pleasure to hang out together for a few hours and talk comics. So we'll see you all next week at about the same time on probably Ross's channel, maybe next time. What do you think?
Why not?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Ross's channel. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Good night.
Good Sunday.